Tonight, the rarest of spectacles in the sky, a total solar eclipse, turning day into darkness for millions of people across Mexico, the United States and Canada. These are live shots now of the sun. As you can see, we're beginning to see the moon passing between the sun and the earth. I'm Yalda Hakim with this special Sky News program, Total Eclipse Live. We'll bring you 3 hours of amazing pictures, insights and analysis, including from our two experts here in the studio with me. Well, excitement has been building throughout the day with millions of people about to witness this total eclipse. We're just a few minutes away from seeing the night's first total eclipse. It'll be seen in Mexico first before the so-called path of totality moves across the United States and Canada. Our correspondents have joined eclipse hunters at watch parties across America. We'll hear from Martha Kellner and Mark Stone in just a moment. Well, as we track the site of the eclipse from Mexico to the very eastern tip of Canada, you can follow its path on the bottom left-hand side of our screen. So stay with us for this, the greatest show from Earth. Let's start by getting a sense of the excitement on the ground. Our correspondent, Martha Kellner, is at a watching party in Indianapolis, where huge numbers of eclipse hunters have gathered. Martha, I mean, the excitement really is gathering now, isn't it?
It is. We're just over 2 hours away now, Yalda, from the moment of totality. So that is the moment that the sun is completely obscured by the moon, plunging this place into darkness. Just to give you an idea of what's going on here, this is the Indianapolis Speedway. It's home to the Indy 500, which I'm sure major sports fans will know is America's best attended single-day sporting event. It really is a vast arena. It's packed today with around 50,000 people waiting to see this total solar eclipse. And I think that's what makes today so special, the fact that this event can be witnessed by so many people. The path of totality, which I was speaking about before, where the total solar eclipse can be seen, that will pass over the homes of 32 million people. So they can literally see it from their own back garden, front garden, by sticking their head out of the window. In addition to that, experts think around 5 million people will travel to be in that path to witness what is probably Mother Nature's biggest trick, to quite literally make the sun disappear for a matter of minutes. So it will travel from Mexico up through the plains of Texas into the Midwest and then up to the northeast of America, where we expect the skies to be the clearest. There had been anxiety building here about possible cloud coverage in Indianapolis, but for the moment it seems pretty clear. There is a serious amount of optimism that people will get a very good view of this total eclipse later on today, and that's just as well, because the last time Indianapolis saw a total solar eclipse, it's hard to believe, was the 13th century. The next time they'll get to see it is 129 years. So for many people here who don't have the means to travel beyond Indianapolis, it is quite literally a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, Martha, so many lovely details there. You can stick your head out of the window if you want to see it, if you're in the path of totality. We will, of course, have you with us for the next few hours as we see this remarkable event unfold. Let's go to our correspondent, Mark Stone, who is up by the US border with Canada in Newport, Vermont. And Mark, I mean, we're just speaking there to Martha, excitement building. This really is a once-in-a-lifetime occurrence, and the excitement is palpable there.
So the joke was, how does the man...
You said it, the greatest show on earth. It really is, literally. There has been a phenomenon that has become known today as cloud anxiety, because Mother Nature, in certain parts of the band through which this total eclipse will pass, had threatened to spoil her own show, and in some areas she will, which explains why this small town, right up in the northern corner of the United States, in the north of Vermont, just next to the border with Canada, has become so swelled. Have a look around, see how many people there are here. Population usually 4,000. Well, the organisers just said they think there are 15,000 people here today who have all been chasing the cloudless skies, and have a look at those. They really are absolutely perfect. You couldn't wish for a better day to see this wonder of nature, and we will in just an hour and a half or so's time. the skies will fall dark. Us humans will weep, we'll scream, I don't know what else we'll do, and we'll be watching too for what the animals do. There are lots of dogs here. People say that they behave strangely. The bird starts to sing as the sun reappears after what will here be about 3.5 minutes of complete darkness.
Mark, thank you so much. And of course, we'll also be talking to you throughout the program as this remarkable event unfolds, and also be speaking to many people who'll give us a sense of how people's behavior changes, how animals behave. But you're looking at some live pictures there of people who have gathered in the Mexican town of Mazatlan, where the total solar eclipse is due to start later in a couple of minutes. And you were looking at some live pictures there of the Mexican president with his special glasses on. You do have to wear these special eclipse glasses. So many scientists have warned not to look directly at this phenomenon when it happens, because it can permanently damage the eyes. So looking there at the Mexican president waiting in that Mexican town of Mazatlan, where the total eclipse is due to start in about 40 seconds, I'm told. 30 seconds now, I'm being told by my team of producers. So we are waiting to see this extraordinary moment where we will see the total solar eclipse, which will be visible in Mexico shortly in the town of Mazatlan. It should happen any second now. So we are watching this extraordinary live event unfold. It's expected to be quite a dazzling celestial show. So let's watch that happen now. There are millions of people gathered across 15 states and in Mexico and Canada as well. You're looking at live images of people trying to gather that really have a sense of what's happening in this extraordinary moment in Mazatlan in Mexico. As you can see there, large crowds of people are gathered in the Mexican town of Mazatlan. Let's just have a little listen in.
This is great. So you're starting to see those pink fingers out there kind of sticking out.
Wow. So again, totality here in Mazatlan, Mexico, the first community in North America to experience the moon completely eclipsing the sun. And if you are in Mazatlan right now, it is now safe to remove your eclipse glasses for the next 4 minutes. And you mentioned some of those pink filaments that we're seeing, right? Can you talk us a little bit through that, Kelly?
Yeah, so those pink filaments, because they're helium rich, that's why they're appearing pink and they're hanging out there. Those could be the start of space weather. So there are lots of tons of material, billions of tons of material that could possibly be one of those explosions for space weather, the reasons why we really study the sun and try to understand how to live with the sun.
Well, can you explain why space weather is important to us here on Earth?
Definitely. So it's not just satellites that are interested in space weather. It's also our power grids, because of those energetic particles coming from those big explosions that can happen in the sun. That could damage our power grids. It could also do things like interfere with GPS signals. And I know we all use our phones to navigate everywhere. So if we didn't have that, that would be a big problem. So we're looking to understand it better so we can all mitigate all those things.
Some of the movement we're seeing here is just our telescope operator adjusting, because again, they needed to make some changes for before totality. Now they're viewing it a different way, and then after totality, we might see some shakes there as well. But I really just cannot believe how crisp it is. As we said, it's not a marble, but I mean, just the view of it is so crisp with these little, again, those filaments are just amazing that we can see that to such accuracy, you know?
Right, definitely. And also the white fuzz. I mean, you're seeing something that's 1,000,000 degrees just hanging out all around the sun. And, you know, 3 billion Earths can fit inside of there. So there's a lot of atmosphere there, all around there, just hanging out.
You're listening there to some commentary from NASA TV as that extraordinary moment takes place in the Mexican town of Mazatlan, where the total solar eclipse just began. So that's the path of totality, which we will be following this evening. Let's just bring in my guests in the studio this evening, space journalist Kate Arkles-Gray and Dr. Sheila Kanani, a planetary scientist. Thank you both for joining us here. I mean, here in the studio, we can't quite capture how remarkable, how awe-inspiring.
It's still pretty spectacular to see that, though.
It is pretty extraordinary to see this, but the people witnessing this as it's happening live on the ground.
One of my favourite things I've been doing over the last few days is watching videos of people enjoying the moment of totality, because their expressions of awe and disbelief and excitement, they're just really kind of infectious. It's just a wonderful thing to do.
It's beautiful and it's also terrifying.
It's very unworldly, is an expression I've heard quite often mentioned.
I just feel jealous that I'm not there in the flesh. I've not seen one personally, so that's on my list of to-do things in the future.
Yeah, someone asked me if I had cloud anxiety, because of course we're following this path of totality, and I said, no, I don't have cloud anxiety, I actually have envy, because what these people are seeing is just a once-in-a-lifetime occurrence.
And all those different emotions, so you could hear people cheering and whooping, but I'm sure there's people who are going inside themselves and just enjoying that peace as well. And I think the animals, we've mentioned on the VTs as well, that it really affects everyone from the tiniest birds to humans. So it really brings everyone together as well.
Yeah, I mean, because if you just take a moment and step back from this is, suddenly day turns into absolute darkness. And so it does kind of throw everything off, doesn't it? The animals are not sure what's happening, and everyone's trying to get a sense.
Middle of the day, and you can look up and see stars as if it's the middle of the night. I think I also haven't experienced a total eclipse myself, but from what I've heard, it really is, it's almost quite jarring, because, we know what nighttime is like. Nighttime is dark and daytime is bright, but for the sun to just vanish like that, to be hidden away like that, and it changes everything so much.
Kate, just tell us what's happening in Mazatlan right now in Mexico, because this is the start of the path of totality.
Yeah, so what we've seen is they've had the moment of totality where the moon is blocking the sun completely, and now that shadow is moving across, and we're seeing they describe it as a sort of diamond ring effect. So as the shadow of the moon is moving, we're seeing that bright point of light, and this is the time to put your sunglasses, your eclipse glasses back on very definitely, because you don't want to damage your eyes. But it is quite an impressive sight to see. And then that shadow will move along, and the next people along that path of totality will get their experience.
Well, the president of Mexico is enjoying it this very moment, and this only sort of lasts, well, it will in Mazatlan for a few minutes, won't it, before it kind of moves on?
Yeah, absolutely. So the minutes of totality are literally minutes. So this particular eclipse is quite good. They're sort of 3 to 4 minutes of totality, which is that dark phase. Previous eclipses have been sort of 2 minutes. It just depends on the geometry of the sun, Earth, Moon, in terms of how long that totality lasts, but this is one of the better ones. So you can actually take your glasses off for those 4 minutes and enjoy that darkness.
And one of the better ones, because the number of people who get to witness this, we're talking tens of millions who are just in its path, and then the millions
the people
who have descended on all of these towns and cities across Mexico, the United States and Canada.
I saw a map of, it was Airbnb bookings, and exactly matched the path of totality. And I was like, wow, that's... And not only that, but America have had 2 in the last 7 years, and that doesn't happen very often either. So.
The last one happened in 2017, but this one's quite special because of the number of people, again, who get to see it.
Well, it's not just the number of people, but also the phase we're at in terms of the sun. It's in a very active phase at the moment. So just as they went into totality, and you could see those little kind of pinkish, like little rubies around the edge, those are little prominences, and that will be something that NASA scientists are looking at and studying while we've got this eclipse moment, and you can actually image the sun and the corona and see what's going on around it. But yeah, that's a really exciting time.
And that's what this is about as well. I mean, it's multiple things. The sense of community, the fact that so many people are able to come together and witness this extraordinary moment. And as well for the science community who are tracking this, who are having a better sense of what it means for us here on Earth, but also teaches us so much about the sun.
Absolutely. And I think if there was anybody you'd be more jealous of than those people in Mexico, it might be the people from NASA who are flying in the high altitude plane. So they didn't have to have any cloud anxiety because they're flying above the cloud line. And that means they can get even clearer images and they can they're studying things about the corona, which is the outer atmosphere of the sun, but also looking at how the eclipse will affect our Earth's ionosphere. So this is the kind of thing that can affect the way our communication satellites work. So that what they're trying to do is learn more about how things are impacted so that in future they can predict that. I mean, there was a mention of space weather. It was back in 1859. We had the Carrington event, which was a big solar storm, and I think it set various cables on fire and caused a bit of destruction. Now, if we had something like that today, so much of what we have relies on the infrastructure, we could be in real trouble.
Yeah, so if we just look at what's happening right now, though, we just saw the Mexican president walk off stage, but Sheila, suddenly it's turned to day in just a few minutes.
It is a very short-lived occurrence. The whole eclipse is hours, sort of from first contact, but that darkness is minutes, which is just astounding, really. And it really reminds you of that connection between our place on the Earth and everything else. And, we are part of the solar system. The solar system is part of the Milky Way, etc. And it just reminds us that we're not the only things. And, we go around the sun and the sun goes around the centre of the galaxy, etc. And it makes you feel insignificant and quite small.
Very much so. Well, we'll be tracking the site of the eclipse from Mexico to the very eastern tip of Canada. You can follow its path on the bottom left of the screen here. But joining me now from Dallas, Texas, to discuss this more is astronomer and author Tom Kurz. And Tom, thank you so much for joining us. We just witnessed that extraordinary moment which has taken place in the Mexican town of Mazatlan, where the total solar eclipse began. And, we saw it happen just within minutes, and then it suddenly went from total darkness to light again. Really quite an extraordinary moment.
Yeah, it's the most astonishing thing to witness. Currently, I'm in a small town called Hawkins in Texas. Decided to get out of Dallas after looking at the weather forecast. And as you can probably see in the sky behind me, the clouds are very broken here. So while Mexico is ahead of us with their totality, we are expecting ours to come up quite shortly, within the next 20 minutes or so. I've got my camera set up behind me, you can just see in your picture, and it's pointed at the sun, ready to go. So I'm really looking forward to experiencing those minutes of darkness here. Given how bright it is out here, it's going to be such a change from this beautiful sunshine, and it really is a very amazing thing to witness, and really quite spooky too.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we're trying to capture here in the studio, the fact that this is such an awe-inspiring, remarkable moment, but it's also quite terrifying.
Yeah, well, there's nothing to be scared of course, but people, a long time ago came up with all kinds of colourful stories to explain what was happening, the battle between the sun and the moon, and of course that could be perceived to be quite scary. Now, as your previous guest was saying, the eclipse has the opportunity to be a sort of unifying, quite inspiring event. It gives us an opportunity to think about our relationship to these three objects that are lining up: the Earth, our home, the moon, which is so important for the history of life on Earth and our lives today, and of course the sun, our star that heats and lights our world and makes all of this possible. So it really is this extraordinary alignment of objects that are so important to us. We can witness for just a few minutes and think about the scale of it all. And I think there's no reason to be scared and every reason to be inspired.
Yeah, I mean, and the other thing, Tom, I guess you're saying is, the alignment, that's not a given. That in itself is quite a unique and rare thing that we're able to witness.
Yes, we're so incredibly fortunate. We live at such a wonderful moment in time. Our moon is actually moving away from the Earth, and the sun itself, well, we change our distance to the sun. In the distant future, the sun is going to expand and become larger than it is. So for this sort of brief moment in cosmic time, we have this wonderful coincidence where the moon is 400 times closer to us than the sun. It's also about 400 times smaller than the sun. And so the two are able to form this beautiful total solar eclipse. And as your previous guest was saying, on this occasion, we have a rare opportunity as well to see a very active atmosphere streaming out away from the sun's corona, with the sun being close to its maximum level of activity on its 11-year cycle. That, of course, has been wonderful for those of us who chase the northern lights for a living as well. But during an eclipse, we can also witness that beautiful majesty of the corona streaming out into space with all of those highly active features, what we call coronal loops and streamers. So I'm really looking forward to seeing that myself. And I'm hoping that one of these lovely holes in the cloud is going to pass over at the opportune moment so we can capture it here.
Yeah, in fact, I mean, we can also see the clouds behind you. But on our screen, Tom, we're looking at live images of Torreon in Mexico, where we can see, the total solar eclipse there as it sort of moves along the path. And hopefully it will obviously make its way to you, very soon.
It's extraordinary to think about that motion that's happening right now. The moon's shadow is kind of slinking silently across North America, entering Mexico, passing up to us in Texas, across the United States, all the way up into Canada. And the shadow is only 115 miles wide. So you really have to be in that perfect spot and wait for it to pass over you. I think it's a testament as well to the ingenuity of us and our science and our long history together, that we can predict such things and be in exactly the right place at the right time. And we can predict them so far into the future. As some of your guests may have mentioned, those of us here in the US won't have an opportunity to see anything as spectacular as this for another 21 years. So we're going to have to travel. And I do think that has created a sense of urgency. And that's certainly felt here in Texas, where everybody's getting their eclipse fever right now.
I'm told those hotels in Texas, many people were looking for an attempt to get a refund because they were so worried about the clouds. They were having cloud anxiety.
Yes, I mean, you've got to do the best you can. And while eclipses are majestic and amazing to witness and they're on everyone's bucket list, I do want to emphasize that the thrill of the chase is part of it too. So getting on the road, perhaps, and getting out to somewhere like we are in Hawkins. Don't all come here at once, please. But there is a little bit of space here in the car park behind me if you do want to pull up in time. Where it's a little bit sunnier, being out on the chase is also part of the thrill. And I think making the journey, even if you don't see the greatest part of the eclipse, just knowing that you were standing in the shadow of the moon, something to hold on to, I think.
There is a difference, though, between a partial eclipse and a total eclipse, isn't there?
There is, and really the difference is very vast. Partial eclipses are absolutely majestic and amazing to witness, but totality is not like 100% of the quality of eclipse. It seems much greater than that. The difference between a 99% partial eclipse and a total eclipse is a vast gulf, because it's a very different experience. I do recommend everybody witness a total eclipse in their lifetime. It's absolutely astonishing. If you really can't travel, then it's certainly worth going out and seeing the partial phases, because you still get the opportunity to see something really unusual, the new moon, the night side of the moon that you would never normally notice. Look for the edge of the moon, for example, and those rugged features, and indeed enjoy that beautiful crescent phase, which is so strange. But yes, as you say, it is fantastic to witness a total solar eclipse. And so if you are close to where a total solar eclipse is going to occur, then in my opinion, you owe it to yourself to make that journey to be in the best spot.
Well, you've inspired us as well to at least perhaps wait 21 years and try again. Tom, thank you so much for joining us there from Texas. Let's bring in our panelists, Kate and Sheila. When you hear that, it is so inspiring,
I'm sold. I'm booking my tickets already. I mean, there is going to be a partial eclipse visible here in the UK in August in 2026. That'll be about 90% coverage. So you might think, oh, that's almost totality. But it might. I think I'm now tempted to book the flights and go down to Spain or North Africa and actually try and see that in totality, because it does seem spectacular.
Yeah, just give us, I mean, Tom did talk about, the kind of partial versus total. There is a difference. I mean, it's great to be able to see the partial. Of course, that in itself is phenomenal, but the total eclipse is...
Yeah, I mean, with the total eclipse, you do get that few minutes of darkness. You get to actually take off your eclipse glasses, look at the corona around the sun and see the activity, if you're lucky for it to be near solar max like we are at the moment. And also you have a moment where you can look all around you, 360 degrees around you, and see a kind of sunset, sunrise kind of thing, which is the edge of the moon's shadow that you're seeing. So it's just all around you is, yeah, it's like a little sunrise everywhere.
That is,
It's
so amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And there was a partial in 2015, a very good partial from the UK. I know Tom mentioned the thrill of the chase and the cloud anxiety. So we'd organised an event in Regent's Park. I think it was happening, the partial was happening around 6 in the morning. We had over 1,000 people in the park, and then we had the cloud. But even with the cloud, so I couldn't see anything, but I did feel it get cold and still. So sort of nature still knew it was happening above the clouds. But yeah, the total is different.
Explain that, because I have heard the weather suddenly changes, you know,
Yeah.
the animals don't know what to do, and then the emotions that people feel. I mean, as we were talking earlier, it is the science that Tom Kurz, the astronomer, was talking about, and Kate has been talking about, but it's also the emotions, the sense of community that globally we feel.
And I think we're lucky that we live in this sort of scientific age, that we know what's happening. So imagine witnessing a total solar eclipse 500 years ago, 1,000 years ago, and not really knowing what was going on. You would think that, you know, the gods were playing havoc with you because you'd been a bad person or something, and it would have been terrifying. And now we are lucky, we know what's going on, but it's still awe-inspiring and very majestic.
We'll come back to both of you in a moment, but we've got the NBC's Jay Gray, who joins me now from Junction in Texas. Jay, thanks so much for joining us here on the program. So there are so many people waiting there for the moment to arrive. We were in Mexico watching the total eclipse, and so many people in Texas, although slightly disappointed with the weather. Is that correct?
Well, in a lot of Texas, we've been disappointed with the weather. Here, remarkably, we saw the clouds burn off early this morning. A few have moved in now, but we're minutes away from totality here. And I want to give you a look. You think this is memorable for people watching it. What about this couple getting married during totality right now? Thought this was such a special day and wanted this to be a part of what they were doing. So they are taking their vows under what's a darkening sky here. The temperature has dropped as well, and they are getting married during the totality of this eclipse. We're at the Techclipse Music Festival, a festival that's been going on now for 3 days. Of course, the star of this show is that giant star today that is being covered by the moon. And you can see people taking a look here, doing what they can to see what they can. It's really been quite an event here. They've celebrated this eclipse. It started its journey in the U.S. here in Texas. They gave it a Texas welcome. Rodeo events, a chili cook-off, a margarita mix-off. We've had bands and dancing. It's been a fun 3 days with people not only from across the state, across the country, but from around the world coming out just to get a look at this event. And it's been amazing as it gets a little darker here now, and the temperature has been dropping, and the clouds are moving out of the way. So we're going to see that pop back out and hopefully see the corona surrounding the sun here. But just a fantastic and amazing event here. And with the clouds pushing through this morning, a lot of people were very worried they'd made this trip for nothing, that they wouldn't see it. But we've seen that moon really chomping away at the sun, moving in front of it or in between the sun and the earth here. And it's been a magic day, and everybody waiting now for the next few minutes when we go totally dark here.
Yeah, I mean, really quite extraordinary, as you say. I mean, despite those clouds, so many people have made their way to Texas from other parts of the United States, filling up hotels. It's been really good for business as well.
Oh, no question. I know that a lot of the hotels in the path of totality have been booked for a full year. Airbnb says that all of their properties in that path, 9 of 10 are rented right now. So a lot of people wanted to experience this and made sure they got involved early and made sure that they had a place where they could watch this.
Okay, Jay, well, we'll leave you there, but we're very much looking forward to speaking to our teams there in Texas a little later in the program as we wait for the path of totality to pass through Texas. Thanks so much, Jay. Joining me now to discuss more is Deborah Ross, co-chair of the American Astronomical Society Solar Eclipse Task Force. Thank you so much, Deborah, for joining us here on the program. And we've been speaking to people in the United States. They're so excited about this. And you have actually seen a total eclipse before.
Oh, yes, I have. In 2017, my then 16-year-old daughter dragged me to the path of totality. We drove from Rochester, New York to Kimmswick, Missouri. And I had no idea what the big deal was, but I was going along because it was a mother-daughter trip and it was lovely. But then as soon as 99% went to 100% and the moon covered the face of the sun there in Missouri, I could see the stars come out around the sun. You could see the beautiful corona of the sun. And all around, we saw that 360-degree sunset. And I suddenly understood what all of the fuss was about. It was about that science you'd been reading about since you were 8 years old. Suddenly, you could feel the science. And so I was completely hooked, an eclipse chaser for life. And knowing that it was coming to Rochester in 2024, immediately went home and started the task force to prepare.
That sounds, I mean, absolutely extraordinary, especially because you're a skeptic, and it completely changed your view. Just tell me emotionally how you were feeling, because you know so many of the people we're hearing from are saying it's such an emotional roller coaster as well.
Yeah, you know, everybody coming out of a total solar eclipse has a different eclipse story. Sometimes people say that when you look up at the stars, you feel small and insignificant. In my case, the feeling was not of insignificance, but of significance. I was one of the four bodies in my universe, right? The sun, the moon, the earth, and me. And you have a sense of, you know, your place and your kind of what it means that human beings have gotten to the point where science lets us know that we can predict these things down to the second. It was a kind of glorious moment. At the same time, though, I tapped into what thousands of generations of mothers must have felt in a pre-scientific era before they knew what was happening. Imagine that thing that your children and you depended on for your existence just suddenly wiped out, not for a second, but for minutes on end. How terrifying that must be. So I felt everything.
Yeah, I mean, it tells you so much about our past, our present, and as you say, people not really knowing what was going on. Really quite an extraordinary situation. But let's just, I'm going to keep you there, Deborah. We're just going to go to Kerrville, Texas, and we're going to dip into NBC's coverage and correspondent Morgan Chesky, who's in Kerrville, Texas. Let's just have a listen in.
Lester, the clouds are coming in and out. There it is. Oh,
my goodness, that's so cool.
You can absolutely see those prominences coming off the edge of the corona there, Lester. Oh, my goodness.
Wow.
Oh. Listen to that cheer. It's clear again. Lester, 50% of... Lester, the broadcaster in me wants to narrate this play-by-play. The human in me wants to witness this right alongside family and friends. I'm joined now by my fam here. Little 10-month-old Eleanor about to get her very first eclipse. I know it's a lot to take in, honey, but Olivia, oh, it's a lot. I know. I wouldn't be anywhere else other than with y'all right now. Babe, thank you.
Thank you, sweetie.
Is she hanging in there?
She is. I think it scared her a little.
Look, what was it like to see that, babe?
Emotional. Brought tears to my eyes.
Yep. So 50% of first-time eclipse viewers, they are struck by that emotional moment. Lester, hang in there, baby. Lester, I have to tell you, here we are. No glasses, no visors needed. We are in that shadow. It's unreal. The temperature dropping now about 8 degrees. Take a look here, Juliet, keeping our eye on the thermometer here. And look at that. This is what everyone came here for, from all over the world to Kerrville, Texas, to witness this moment in time. We may never have another moment like this, and that's why it was so special for everyone in the darkness around me to witness this moment. Lester, they say, for your first eclipse, soak it in. The second is the one you take pictures because you do not want to have this moment interrupted. Oh, wow. I've seen one before from a plane, Lester. This one, shared by so many others, is powerful. Absolutely. It feels cooler. The wind has died down, and everyone is in awe right now of this 4 minutes and 24 seconds, which I have to tell you is feeling a little like an eternity right now. The buildup was so strong as we saw the moon slide in front of the sun that when it finally happened, you almost had to pinch yourself. People have been planning for this for years, and now it's finally here. Hey, it's okay. Hey. Are you loving this moment right now?
Unbelievable. Unfreaking believable.
And when you saw that corona from around the sun, how did that feel?
It was deeply emotional.
Emotional?
Deeply emotional.
Absolutely. How can you not be emotionally impacted by this? Lester, I want to check back in with the Cox-Gerard family with the custom T-shirts. Guys, the build-up was huge. Amazing. We saw it. How are we feeling?
Amazing.
So exciting.
What was your favorite part?
When it just turned black when it was day and it just dimmed.
What were you seeing around the edge of the moon?
It kind of looked like a ring, so it was like kind of like the gold.
Mm-hmm. And Dad, what about you? I know that you're probably one of the most excited ones here.
Yeah. Super excited. I love hearing the joy behind me with when all of that went down. But yeah, this was, I wasn't sure we were going to see it, so to get the waves of it was even more exciting.
First one.
Yeah, oh yeah.
50% of people get emotional. How'd you fare?
I did good this time. Yeah.
And Lester, we have Mom Sandy here. She not only cheer for Mom. She not only made the shirts but brought the fam. As we leave Totality, how are you feeling to have your whole family here to witness this?
We still have 2 in New Jersey, but it's wonderful to have this group here. This is our daughter and our kids. Yes, love it.
Look at that, guys. Daylight coming back.
Yeah, it's crazy, right? It's beautiful.
Appreciate y'all. So get your glasses ready. Thank y'all so much for letting us share this with you. Lester, it doesn't, of course. Absolutely. We'll send it back to you, but an incredible moment here in Kerrville that absolutely delivered. When you see that ring, there's nothing like it. Lester?
That was Morgan Chesky there from NBC, and we will be dipping throughout the program into our partners' NBC coverage. So you were listening there to Morgan Chesky, who was in Kerrville, Texas. I mean, that was so precious to see him there with his child and his partner. It was quite a moment for them, and you could see, I mean, how emotional everyone got seeing that.
Yeah, and there was that couple that were getting married during Totality. I do know a couple that got married in 2017 during the last American eclipse during Totality. And just imagine that as a story, as a wedding story. I think that's amazing, isn't it?
Well, we will be on the show having someone, speaking to someone who will be officiating 300 weddings.
Oh, wow.
So we will be speaking to them in a couple of hours here on the program. But, you know, you just really, I mean, I thought Morgan Chesky there from NBC really captured it all, from the darkness to the light and then the emotion.
The fact he's a professional broadcaster and was lost for words for a few moments, which is, wow, you know, wasn't sure whether he should be doing his job and talking about what was happening, what he could see around him, or whether he should go over to his family and spend that time with them. It was really rather lovely.
Yeah. And that was his second eclipse as well, wasn't it? He said he saw one from an aeroplane. So a different experience, obviously, this time. And I noticed his little girl, I think he said, she started crying during Totality. And I wonder if that is, you know, to do with the darkness and the temperature.
Yeah,
and,
I mean, we heard him say there that the temperature dropped by
like
about
8 degrees, 6 degrees.
five degrees there. Yeah. So you know, it does get colder and it gets gloomier, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you are in the shadow, and you're in the main shadow, the umbra. That's where you see that total eclipse. So yeah.
Well, let's go back to NBC's coverage, and we can go now to Dallas, Texas, and hear from Priscilla Thompson. Have a listen.
See if I can go over and find out from somebody who's looking at it. Okay, can you tell me what you're seeing right now?
Maybe a quarter sliver of the sun.
Okay,
that's about it.
A quarter slither, and you definitely feel it getting darker.
It's cooler, it's darker, it's kind of an eerie feeling right now.
Yeah. It's a little strange right now, Katie, because it's just in the time that we've been speaking, I'm feeling it getting darker, and it's strange because it is the middle of the day, right? And so lots of folks running around just reminding people to keep the glasses on, even as they're sort of experiencing this until the point of totality. I'm hearing cheers. I think it's happening. It's getting darker, that's for sure. Okay, I don't want to miss it. You're right. Thank you. Thank you, Katie. Good looking out. Okay, yes, can confirm there is only a slither left, a tiny, tiny ring. Oh, it is so cool. Okay, okay, I'm keeping looking. There it is. It's happening. Yeah, it's completely gone. I see literally this much. There it is! Oh my God! That is so cool. Katie, where would I be without you narrating this for me? This is awesome. I don't think I need my glasses for the totality. Yes, it is very cold. It literally feels like nighttime here. This is amazing, Katie. I have never seen anything like it. I want to try to get some reaction. I hope there's enough light on the camera. Can I ask you what you think of it?
It's amazing. And you can see the stars around it. It's incredible.
Have you ever seen anything like this? What do you think of it?
It's so cool.
Are you glad you came?
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw you looking up the whole time.
This is amazing.
Tell me what you're seeing.
I'm seeing the moon.
It's so pretty. I heard that one back there.
Everything under the sun is in tune, and the sun is eclipsed by the moon.
Yeah. So you can see the stars. You can see that beautiful ring. I hope you're getting a shot of it and able to experience it out there as well, Katie. It is amazing. And complete darkness. Yeah. Let me see. Let's see if we can go back here, if my photographer will come with me. Yes, we'll just move. Hi. Can I ask you really quick, how are you feeling? What does it feel like seeing this?
It's just awesome, and it makes you feel little.
Yeah.
You know what? It's just unbelievable and overwhelming.
Yeah, unbelievable and overwhelming. I think I'll agree with that. And is she related to you or no? Separate? This is your daughter. Okay, can I ask, how are you feeling? What does it feel like to see this?
It feels amazing.
Amazing. Mom, what do you think?
I'm very excited for this opportunity. I missed it. We could see some of the coronas shining off right now. It's very exciting.
Yeah.
And next time we see it, we'll be grown-ups.
Yeah, you'll be a grown-up the next time this happens. Are you excited you got to see it as a kid?
Yes.
How old are you?
I'm 8.
8? Do you think you'll come back in 20 years or so? Will you try to see it then too? Yes. Yeah, it's really amazing. Let me see if we can get one more. Well, here, I ran into you a second. How are you feeling?
It's amazing. It's overwhelming, and the energy of this crowd. Being here to watch this really helps a lot too, and knowing what's going on.
And I want to ask about that because for a moment we're all together in this moment, having this experience. What does that mean?
It means that we're one people, that we all can get along about some things some days,
and maybe some other things too, right?
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yes, it is for the news, yeah. So, yes, lots of excitement, and I see some more kids back here, so let me see if I can get one more. Hi, can I ask you all how you're doing, how you feeling?
This is one of the coolest things ever, and Henry is enjoying it too, yeah.
Oh my God, so is it a boy? Yes,
Henry,
his
yeah.
First eclipse and likely your last eclipse? Wow, whole family here. How many generations here? 4 generations of a family here. Can I ask why it was important for you all to come together and be here for this together?
It was just, it was
a good opportunity for all of us to experience something together all at once.
Yeah. And where are you all from? The Dallas area, or okay? Yeah. Well, there you have it. And we're starting to get light again, but it was an incredible experience. I'll put my glasses back on before I look up. Yeah, so it's starting to move, but just an amazing experience to be here surrounded by all of these people.
You were listening there to Priscilla Thompson from NBC. And as we said throughout the program, over the next few hours, we will be dipping in and listening to NBC coverage and all of their reporters across the United States who are witnessing this extraordinary moment live with millions of people. In total, over 30 million people live in the path of totality, and several million others have made their way to towns and cities across the United States to be able to witness this. I have my panelists here with me in the studio, and I mean, Kate, no matter where we're going, we're hearing and seeing the emotion, aren't we?
It's that same reaction of sort of disbelief and amazement and excitement, and I think that's such a nice thing to share with other people. I mean, they talk about the eclipse chasers. People, you know, they get bitten by the bug. They've seen one, it's changed their life, and that's it. They'll just keep going back everywhere around the world to see the next one. I'm a bit like that with rockets, and even if they don't launch, there's something in that shared anticipation and excitement and waiting and the people you meet, and then if a rocket launches or if you get to see an eclipse, it just brings you and links you all together kind of forever for that one moment.
Yeah, and Sheila, that's what we have continued to hear, haven't we, almost for the past 45 minutes or so from everyone who's witnessed it, that it's life-changing in that moment.
It's like the biggest Mexican wave across the whole of the United States. You know, you're hearing these cheers one by one, one after the other, and it's just so long as well. And I think having your family there must be so special, just experiencing that. And that little girl said, you know, I'm going to be a grown-up the next time I see my next eclipse. And that might change her life forever. She might want to become an astronomer now because of seeing that.
Absolutely. So. Well, the next one is in 21 years. So, you know, she'll be an adult, and it will be a different point in time in her life. But let's go now to Neil Sanders, an amateur astronomer from Go Stargazing, who joins me now from Burnett in Texas. Thank you so much for joining us here, Neil, on the program. We've seen people in Dallas witness this. We've seen people in Kerrville in Texas witness this as well. And really, it's been so emotional watching them and their reaction to something that seems to be life-changing.
You know what? My fingers are tingling here. I feel really excited. My heart's racing. That was such an incredible experience. That really was. It's my first total solar eclipse. You know, we had all of the nerves this morning with the weather, you know, trying to, you know, patiently wait for the clouds to disperse. And then, I don't know, maybe about 5 minutes before totality, the sky is absolutely cleared. And yeah, it was absolutely incredible. Honestly, I'm buzzing. I really am.
I can hear it. I can hear it in your voice, the emotion. You know, we've been speaking to reporters and guests here on the program who have witnessed it, and it really does sound like something that completely changes you in that moment, even though it's only a few minutes long. It is something so extraordinary to witness.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it did take me a little while to persuade my wife, Karen, to come all this way to Austin, Texas, to look at something for 4.5 minutes. You know, but I think it's worked out really well. And you know, you were just saying about having the bug, getting the bug and chasing the eclipses. I definitely would like to do that again. And again, there's another side to it as well. It's not obviously as an amateur astronomer, I'm really keen and interested in seeing these things. But I also enjoy sharing the moment with others, and I've got an amazing group of people who we've met up with here in Burnett in Texas. We're sharing a wonderful home with a lovely family and all of their friends, and if anything, the memories will not just be of me witnessing this moment; it'll also be the fantastic new friends I've made.
Yeah, Neil, we're so grateful that you've joined us when you've just had this very emotional experience. Thank you so much for being with us here. Let's take you now to Russellville, Arkansas, where nearly 300 couples are getting married together. in this moment as they wait to this path of totality. So you can see there, 300 couples have gathered. We will be speaking to someone who is officiating these marriages in Arkansas. Let's just have a little listen in.
Especially if you've just been married at first man. So one of those couples, one of the 50 couples who just got married. Start farming for broken heroes, so
We're watching live footage from Russellville in Arkansas, where 300 couples have gathered to get married in this extremely special moment. They are in the path of totality. So they're currently experiencing day turning into darkness and witnessing that very special moment of total solar eclipse. And we will be speaking to someone who will be officiating the marriages, but you're watching live footage from Arkansas, also in the path of totality. Extraordinary moment for all of those couples who have decided to get married and add to their special day by doing it in such a magnificent way during the most spectacular show on Earth, where we get a sense of this extraordinary total solar eclipse that's moving across the United States, and tens of millions of people are in its path. Millions of others have made their way to the path of totality to be able to witness this once-in-a-lifetime event. Although we have said that it will happen again in 21 years, but not with the number of people who will be able to witness it in its path. Let's go to our correspondent now, Martha Kellner, who's watching at a watching party in Indianapolis, where huge numbers of eclipse hunters have gathered. Martha, really good to see you. We've been watching this take place live in Texas and just now in Arkansas, where hundreds of couples have gathered to get married, and so many people there in Indianapolis are waiting for their big moment.
Yeah, we're around 10 minutes away now, Yalda, from the moment of totality. So that's when the moon passes in front of the sun, almost completely obscuring the sun for that moment. We will see a halo around the sun, but everyone very, very keen to make sure they've got the best possible view of that moment. I'm just going to put my safety glasses on now. You have to wear these right up until the moment of totality. I'm just looking up to check just how much of the sun remains. There's just a slight crescent that remains. We're so close to that moment of totality, and you can tell by the temperature. The temperature's dropped significantly, I'd say by at least 5 degrees. It's already getting darker here. So yeah, we're now probably under 10 minutes away from that moment of total eclipse. I'm just going to bring in now astronaut Mark Polanski. You've been to the International Space Station 3 times. You've not, or you can't remember witnessing a total solar eclipse on Earth, though.
No, I actually can't remember doing that live, but this is a pretty exciting time today for sure.
What can people expect to see? Because it will be around 3 minutes and 50 seconds here in Indianapolis that will be in almost total darkness.
Absolutely. And so first off, I mean, people already are experiencing the fact that it's getting a little bit more like dusk than it was in the middle of the day for this time here in Indianapolis. And it's already starting to cool off a little bit because we're not feeling the heat from the sun. And so when we do get the total eclipse, it'll be that the moon is at just the right orbit and the Earth is in just the right orbit around the sun, that the moon will completely block all the light coming from the sun with some exception. And so it'll be truly amazing, nighttime in the middle of the day.
It really does feel quite eerie, doesn't it?
It does, but it's just an amazing thing. And obviously it happens so rarely. It doesn't happen all over the planet at the same time, which is why you have so many people here that have come out, some who've traveled thousands of miles just to be here for this event.
Just to explain what our viewers are seeing at home at the places that have already experienced this moment of totality, there is a ring that's visible around the sun still. What is that ring?
So basically, you know, the sun has what they call the corona, which extends way beyond the surface of the sun, because the sun is a big star, which is like a big nuclear reactor. And so there's tremendous amounts of light that extends beyond the actual surface of the sun. So when the moon blocks it, you still some of that almost like a little halo ring around it, which is why it's really important that everybody has their safety goggles, because without the safety protection for your eyes, you could still damage it. The light is still very, very damaging to the eyes.
And the only time I understand, Mark, that you can take the goggles off is during that 3 minutes, 50 seconds, the period of totality. You can remove your goggles?
And I would not. I don't think I've heard that. I think that you should always be wearing protective eyewear when you're staring there, because first off, you can't really tell if you're in the middle of it or not, and nobody wants to take a chance. Your eyes, your pupils dilate, they open up a little bit because it's like at nighttime you need to take in more light, and so your eyes do that, but then you'll get some of the radiation from the sun.
And just to reflect on the crowd here, around 50,000 people, lots of children here too. How key are experiences like this in bringing children into sort of the scientific community and arousing their excitement around space?
Yeah, Martha, that's exactly kind of what really excites me, is the fact that something like this, people don't even necessarily know that it's science that's bringing all this together. And so if we can get a whole lot of young people around the world interested in things, they're going to become, I think, our leaders of tomorrow who could go ahead and help us and help the planet with a lot of the problems that we have. So I think events like this really bring an awareness to science and technology.
Yeah, and Mark, I'm just wondering, when will the next total solar eclipse in the United States be?
You know, I don't know for sure. I know that I've heard that here in this particular area, it will be well over 100 years before Indianapolis would see another one of those.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Thank you ever so much, Mark, for your time. We'll be back with you in just a second. I'm just going to try and speak to some people who are waiting for this eclipse to happen. Mark, we're from Sky News, British Television. How excited are you for the moment of totality? Very close now.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited. I mean, it's like once in a lifetime kind of opportunity, you know, to be able to be so close, to just easily travel here, you know. A lot of people are coming from all over, but yeah, it's exciting.
Have you ever seen a total solar eclipse before?
No, I've not.
And already we're, you know, feeling the temperature drop, aren't we? You can see the skies have already darkened.
Yeah.
What are you, when you put those goggles on, for people who aren't lucky enough to be here, can you explain what you're seeing, what the sun now looks like?
Kind of looks like an orange in the sky. Yeah, that's been covered, you know, slowly, little by little, by, you know, yeah. But it's all you can see is the sun. That's the only thing you can see. Everything else is blacked out.
And it's almost just a slither that remains,
yes,
isn't it?
At this point, yeah, it is.
And where have you travelled from today?
I'm from Purdue, so I live in West Lafayette. It's about an hour and out from here. Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you very much. Thank you. Just come back in here. So everyone very excited. We're now a matter of minutes away from this total solar eclipse. I was saying earlier, Yalda, to you that 32 million people live in the path of totality. So the path where the sun will be completely obscured by the moon for between 1 and 4 minutes in some places. A spectacular sight that many people will only see once in their lifetime, a really special opportunity. I'm just going to bring Mark Polanski, astronaut, back in with me here. Mark, how special will this moment be for many of these people? As you were saying, 129 years before the city of Indianapolis will ever see this again.
Well, I think you said it best, which is I think there are many people who will be seeing this for the very first time and perhaps will never see something like this again in their lifetime. Certainly not a total solar eclipse like this. And I think what's really amazing is it's almost like a sporting event where you get this shared experience where everybody's rooting for the same team. So the home team here is the solar eclipse, and everybody's going to be doing that, and to kind of get to feel that excitement with everybody around you really will enhance it for I think, not just for them, but for myself as well.
And you can see in the crowd behind, most people, if not all of them, have got these protective safety glasses. They're currently looking up at the sun. I just saw you put your glasses on.
Yeah.
What are you seeing right now? How much of the sun remains?
I mean, it looks like there's not a lot remaining, and it's going to be getting even darker. And just from the time we've been here speaking to each other, I could already feel that it's a lot less light and a lot less heat, and we're getting closer, and you could already hear some of the people hollering as they're getting even closer.
It does feel really exciting, doesn't it? Because, I mean, this arena opened up around 5 hours ago. I've been with people all day, but the anticipation's sort of been building, and that moment of totality is what everyone's waiting for.
That's true, and to me what I find really encouraging is how many children are here today. I mean, in the United States, it's a Monday, it's a school day. I do know that a lot of the schools, for different reasons, decided to go ahead and shut down so that kids could go ahead and get a chance to experience this, which I think is a wonderful thing. It's a great family event.
As well as being this incredible spectacle, and it really is sort of awe-inspiring, isn't it, watching all these people just watching the sun, it also brings up key opportunities for the scientific community, doesn't it? I was speaking to a scientist earlier who was saying that studies are conducted in forests which, you know, for this 4 minutes suddenly go dark in the middle of the day, almost shocking the plants into different sort of photosynthesis schedules. Do you know much about that and what sort of scientific experiments are taking place in this moment of totality?
Well, I certainly know that there will be a lot of that, and there are also how animals will go ahead and react because, you know, creatures, we run off of our circadian rhythm. As humans, we certainly are more in tune with the idea that we're more alert and awake during daylight and less so in darkness. And so it'll be really interesting with plants and animals to go ahead and see, now that we have this quote-unquote artificial darkness in the middle of the day, will that affect them? We also get to go ahead and do a lot of studies of the sun itself because, as we know, with global warming and other things, we can go ahead and experience what's going on, and we need to learn about what's going on with the sun so that we can go ahead and better prepare ourselves to survive on this planet.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Astronaut Mark Polanski there explaining what will happen during this moment of totality. And Yalda, I've never experienced a total solar eclipse before. I experienced a partial solar eclipse, a couple of decades ago, and someone described it to me yesterday and said that the difference between a partial solar eclipse and a total solar eclipse is similar to the difference between travelling in an aeroplane and jumping out of one. And I can tell you right now that that feels very accurate because I have never felt anything like this. The temperature's dropped around 5 to 10 degrees in the matter of minutes. You might be able to tell from our picture. It currently looks like dusk, whereas, you know, the sun was very much beaming just a few minutes ago.
Yeah, Martha, we're actually looking at live images of Carbondale in Illinois, where we can see this extraordinary, I'm told here by my scientists, the pink prominences, the ring that you see around the sun at present. And I will ask them more about what all that means and what scientists can learn about. But you are just a couple of minutes away from witnessing it. As you said, the difference between partial and total, we keep being told here in the studio by all of our guests who have joined us in the last hour or so is just such a difference, and it's so extraordinary to witness the total eclipse, and you will have that privilege in the next couple of minutes.
Yeah, I feel very lucky to be witnessing this, Yalda. Just to reflect on Carbondale, Illinois, I'm not sure whether you're still on those pictures, but Carbondale is one of, if not the only place in the United States that was in the path of totality for the eclipse in 2017, and yet again for this total solar eclipse. I think that now means we are that shout now means we are almost in the period of totality. I can just see a slight ring around the sun here, so I think that does mean we are now in the period of totality here in Indianapolis. This has not happened here since the 13th century. It will not happen again for another 129 years. It is about to go almost pitch black here, and you can hear in the shouts of the people behind me just what this means. I'm just going to pop these protective glasses back on again here. I can just see an ever so slight slither of light at the very top of the sun. I'll just ask Mark what he can see. I don't know whether you just had a look up there. Are we now in the period of totality here?
Well, if we're not, we're getting really close, Martha. I mean, you can hear all the excitement around you, and it's getting almost like nighttime. I think there's a sliver left that we still have before we're actually 100% of the way, but we are close.
And I think that's what's so remarkable, is that most of the people here that I've been speaking to throughout the day, they've never seen this before, so they don't quite know what it looks like, but it has all of a sudden got incredibly dark, and I'm just watching the very tiniest bit of the sun disappear. We are now at the point of a total solar eclipse, and you can hear what that means to everyone here.
Oh yeah, I think we're there now, right? And so look at everybody, and I don't know if your viewers could really go ahead and get a sense of the fact that it is nighttime here. If we didn't have the light from your cameraman, I mean, we'd be in the dark.
Yeah. If you don't know what this feels like, it's quite hard to explain how suddenly within the matter of 10 to 15 minutes, you go from broad daylight to pitch black almost.
And it feels like the temperature's dropped about, 15 to 20 degrees Fahrenheit here, and it's just phenomenal. And so now that we're all getting used to the nighttime, it's only going to last for a few minutes, and then all of a sudden it'll start gradually coming out of it on the other end.
Just let me take another look at the people behind. Lots of people recording this moment on their iPhones. People just enjoying this spectacle, really. Some people getting quite emotional too, beginning to cry. I'll just hand over to Mark. Just finally, Mark, what are you seeing in people's faces here?
I think they are really getting a sense of the wonders of our universe, all of the things that are out there that we don't know about, and everybody is going to get to experience it on a level that they might not otherwise think about. So it's really something to go ahead and watch them do that.
Thank you very much, Mark. I'll just hand back to you now, Yalda.
Thank you so much, Martha. And as we were hearing there from the astronomer who was saying that if the cameraman's light wasn't there, we would be able to see nothing, really. It would be pitch black. I'm just going to bring in Kate and Sheila, who would join me here in the studio. I mean, everywhere we're going, we're getting a sense of the emotion. But I really wanted to see the camera turn off its light, actually, to get a sense of the darkness that they were in.
I was just waiting for her reaction when they did reach totality, because she's not seen one before and she thought they were there, but I could see daylight. And I, having seen how dark it's been in all of the other places, I thought, not yet, not yet. And then, yeah, absolutely, it went really dark, and you could see how much they needed the light from the camera to be able to do those interviews, but the darkness in the background was amazing.
And you actually could hear the emotion changing in Martha's voice, as well as all the other people who were there. I mean, she's at the biggest watching party in the United States, in Indianapolis. So many people gathered there, and some great detail that Martha gave us. The last time this happened was in the 13th century. It won't happen again for 129 years. So everyone's sitting there witnessing this. This is a once-in-a-lifetime experience for all of them.
Yeah, and it just reminds you of that connection between the sun and us. We're seeing the corona. We can't normally see the corona because you can't look at the sun with the naked eye. But during that 4 minutes, 3 minutes of totality, you can. And you can see the corona, and that is where the solar wind is created. And the solar wind blows out from the sun in this mass of highly charged particles, and it does actually impact the Earth. But because we have a magnetic field, we're protected from it. But the solar wind can charge the atmosphere at the North and South Pole, and that's how we get the Northern Lights, which is another amazing spectacle, which I also haven't seen yet.
And that's the thing. We've talked a lot about the community and people coming together and what this does emotionally, but the science behind all of this and what we learn about the sun, our relationship with it, is quite something as well.
Absolutely, and the more we can learn, the better we will be able to predict if there is, if there's going to be a huge space weather event that could affect, our communication satellites, our energy grids, that could genuinely create havoc on Earth. If it knocked out GPS, for example, we're so reliant on these things.
Kate, I'm just going to keep you there, and Sheila, but let's go straight back to Martha, who's with us live again from Indianapolis. And Martha, you're back in daylight. We left you in the dark. The only thing that was helping us see you and all the people behind you, was the light of your crew there. But just tell us what the experience that you've had in the last couple of minutes.
Yeah, it really was a remarkable 3 minutes and 50 seconds of totality. I think we're just emerging at the other side of that period of totality now, but it's hard to explain just what it felt like. I know we've reflected on the temperature dropping, the light suddenly going dark, but also I think it was the emotion in the air. I hope that's not overstating it. I saw people just then, I just went into the crowd briefly to try and be part of that collective experience, and I saw at least a few people in tears, just letting the magnitude of this moment sink in, and very emotional. I'll just bring Mark Polanski, astronaut, back in. Mark, what did you notice in that 3 minutes 50 seconds?
I mean, besides the obvious observations of the fact that it got dark and the sun was blotted out, I think what was most amazing to me was the idea that it brought to my mind the wonders of the universe, why we explore, why we're all interested in space and what goes on. It reminded me about why I became an astronaut in the first place. It was really inspiring.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much, Mark. You might be able to see behind me, just as quick as these 50,000 people arrived, they are now leaving as this period of totality has finished. It's the great eclipse exodus right now, Yalda.
Yeah, Martha, it's going to be massive traffic jams as people try and get out of that stadium. Thank you so much for sharing that experience and working throughout it in that once-in-a-lifetime experience. And as Martha was saying there, the people of Indianapolis, the last time it happened there was in the 13th century, and they won't experience another one for 129 years. So something quite extraordinary there. Well, we can now speak to astronomy and physics professor at the University of Moncton, Francis LeBlanc, who joins me now from Canada. Thank you so much for joining us, Francis, here on the program. It's making its way across North America, and we've been witnessing it in Mexico, and then we saw it move to Texas, Arkansas. We're just speaking to my colleague there in Indianapolis, and you guys in Canada are waiting for it to head your way.
Yes, it should be here in about 30 minutes, a bit less than that. Right now, the sun is about covered, I would say. We have people pouring in on our site. We have hundreds of people, you can probably see behind me. There are traffic jams, so people are still trying to get here to enjoy the spectacle.
Actually, Francis, I'm going to keep you there because we're about to witness the path of totality, which has now reached Cleveland, Ohio. And we're going to listen into NBC's coverage. Jesse Kirch is reporting. Let's have a listen in.
Oh, my gosh. Whoa! Lester, we're in the middle of it right now. Totality is unfolding right as you're coming to us. This crowd is starting to get jazzed up. We've literally got tens of thousands of people rocking out here in Cleveland. We are down the block from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. They have delayed the first pitch for the home opener for the Cleveland Guardians. So there are people in the ballpark. They're not saying play ball until this thing's over. And we are now on the lakefront at one of the official NASA events. And we've got 11-year-old Dylan over here. This is your second time seeing one of these. Take a look at that. What do you think of what's going on up there in the sky, Dylan?
I think it's pretty crazy that this only happens like in every few years. And how it's the full eclipse in America twice.
When you look up and you see the moon completely in front of the face of the sun there, what does that image say to you?
I think it just says that's nighttime, but around it is sun coming.
Lester, we're going to head into the crowd here, and off on the horizon, I'm going to have our photographer, Dana, pan off of me. You can see it almost looks like sunset, sunrise combined here on the shores of Lake Erie. This is just an unbelievable thing to be witnessing. We've got close to 4 minutes of totality here, according to NASA. We've met people who've come from across the country, people who've come from across the pond. I met a family from the UK. They decided to make the trip here. They made the call last week to come out here. And we've been talking a lot about the weather leading up to this. And that was certainly a factor people were worried about. So much so that we met one couple from Virginia who was supposed to be going to Texas. They pivoted, decided on Cleveland because they thought they had a better shot. They had travel booked. They rebooked Virginia. This is your second time seeing this. Well, you know what this was going to feel like, but what's it like seeing it again?
Isn't it incredible? Like, I want to start crying.
Oh, my gosh. And we're looking up at something that Noni's seen before, but her husband, Mike, you've never seen this.
No, I have not.
What's it like seeing this for the first time?
It's pretty amazing. I had no idea it was going to be this spectacular, but it's really awesome. It's really an experience.
Don't look at me. We only got like 90 seconds of this left. What's it like looking up and seeing that?
It's pretty neat. I had no idea that, I didn't know about the diamond ring or Bailey's bead, so being able to see all that and listen to the NASA announcer, it's a pretty educational experience. Feeling the temperature drop was chilling, to say the least, pardon the pun. But
it feels like a cool summer night out here.
It does. And listening to all the birds go quiet, it was a total different environment.
And Lester, for people who might remember from 2017, we had some weather issues in parts of the country then too. I was in Carbondale, Illinois, and we had cloud cover over this stadium filled with people for most of totality. And so I can tell you, someone who only got seconds last time around, to be seeing this and having it just hovering up there with that glow around the edges is just remarkable. And Noni, you've seen this before, but why did you need to see it again?
You know what, honestly, because my brother got the shot and I didn't. I wasn't prepared.
This is all for the Instagram post.
Yes, I wasn't prepared, so I got all my filters. I got everything this time, and I can't even say enough. Like, this is incredible. I did not get anything that remotely looked like this the last time.
Lester,
it was just such a great experience the last time. Having it get dimmer, everybody starts cheering. Everybody is like,
yeah, you got it. Wow.
Filtered, like.
What's in the box? That's pretty freaking awesome.
So cool. Wow.
Makes you feel smart.
Did you get to look up? Are we off? Did you get to look up? Yeah, turn to a color.
Ladies and gentlemen, you have been an outstanding audience.
You're watching the total solar eclipse, which is visible now in Erie, Pennsylvania. And before that, we were listening to Jesse Kirch, who is from NBC, and he was reporting live from Cleveland, Ohio, capturing the emotion of this extraordinary moment as we see it cross North America and those stunning images emerge. I've still got my panelists here with me, Kate and Sheila. And Kate, I mean, this is quite a sight. And you and I and Sheila have been able to witness it over the last hour and a half or so, over and over again, which has just been phenomenal.
It feels like we've had a whole hour-long eclipse, whereas these people are only seeing it for 3-4 minutes at a time. But it really is spectacular. And one of the guests...
I'm just going to interrupt you, sorry, Kate, because we're actually going to go back to Ryan Noble from NBC, who is speaking live from Brockport, New York, and they're experiencing it at the moment. Let's have a listen in.
In totality, and a little concerned and upset that there were so many clouds, but this experience here. My other son, Luke. Are you nervous at all right now?
No.
We're having some technical issues there. We're trying to listen in to Ryan Noble from NBC, who is joining us live from Brockport, New York. And as we've said, our partner channel NBC has been covering this right across the United States. We've also had our own correspondents from Sky News in the United States as well, covering this from different parts of the country. But apologies, you may have heard some bad language there, as well as some technical issues. But you're looking at live images there of Total Lake, New York, as we see the path of totality. And as I was saying here to my panelists, Kate, we've had an hour and a half of this. It doesn't feel like, you know, a few minutes. It's been so many sort of minutes and over again. But actually, Kate, I'm being told we need to go to Mark Stone, our correspondent, who is in the US border with Canada in Newport, Vermont. And Mark, it's been so extraordinary seeing this just cover North America from Mexico right through to Texas and then Arkansas. We saw it in Indianapolis and in New York. And all of those crowds there waiting where you are to have this experience like so many millions of others.
Yes, and we are about to experience that moment here in the most northern portion of the United States, here in Vermont on the on the border, as you say, with Canada, as the eclipse has swept north along that arc of totality. The emotion has swept too. It's been extraordinary to watch, and the emotion that we have been seeing over the course of the sweep of totality we are about to experience here. If I put my glasses on, I can see that it is pretty much, well, very close to totality now. I think we've got about 3 or 4 minutes to go until it is. I can try and have a chat with a few people as we wait for that moment. Hi, ma'am. How are you? Hey, how's it going? I don't mean to interrupt you, but we're not quite at totality yet. What are you seeing from your camera?
I'm looking at a hangnail of the sun.
How does it feel?
It's pretty cool. My husband's more excited than me. He's been waiting 7 years because last time he missed it because of cloud coverage.
Come down and talk to us. Yeah. Well, you're excited.
Very excited. We woke up this morning, drove about 5 hours from Connecticut up here, and this is what we're here for. We're really excited.
You've not seen one before?
I have not. In 2017, I was in Kansas and I saw a lot of clouds, so I'm very excited right now.
It's a remarkable moment, isn't it? And a kind of a moment of unity as well. Everyone together, everyone experiencing the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so many people up here and everyone's being real nice to each other, and we brought our dog.
I'm not sure we can see the dog right down here. Any behavioral changes, have you noticed?
No, she's just always sassy.
We will not disturb you any longer. We'll leave you to it. So there we go. That's a couple of people there, and we've got 3 minutes to go, I'm being told, until the moment of totality. And I can see just a tiny arc in the top left-hand corner of the sun there. Quite an extraordinary moment. We didn't quite know what to expect, Yalda, but it's colder, it's much darker, and in a few short moments, I think we will have totality.
Yeah, Mark, and actually when we were speaking to Martha, you know, someone who's never experienced it before, she sort of thought it had happened, but she was still in light in the daytime. She was talking about, just like you, the temperature dropping about 5 degrees, and then suddenly it just turned pitch black. What would be great, actually, is when it does happen in the next few minutes, I'd love for your crew there to just show us how dark it actually gets. Martha's team had the lights on for us because they wanted us to be able to see all the crowds and Martha. But I understand it's just going to get totally, totally dark where you are. It'll turn into night.
Yes, and we will leave the lights off. Our camera light is not on at the moment, and we'll leave it off so you get a true sense of what it feels like. I should tell you, this is a small town. We drove up here from the south of the state this morning. We were going to head to the west side of the state, but as we've been discussing, it's been there's been a lot of cloud anxiety as people have been searching for that perfect spot. And I really do think that in this small town of 4,000 people, Newport, Vermont, we have found the perfect spot. There is hardly a cloud in the sky, and it's certainly getting dark. And I'm going to put my glasses back on. I think we've got very few moments left until that extraordinary moment of totality comes. It's truly amazing. Really is. I've never experienced it before, Yalda, and I didn't know what to expect. Truly awesome. A truly awesome moment.
We can actually see it slowly getting dark over you, Mark, and we feel like we're going through it and with you, you know, in this amazing experience. And we've seen the way that people's emotions suddenly change as it happens. You know, you sort of suddenly feel cold. And as you were saying earlier, I mean, people get so emotional, even animals completely change their behavior. And I saw there were a few dogs there as well. So it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, what we'll do, we'll pan our camera around, actually, just as the moment of totality comes. Let's move around here and you can see just how dark it gets.
Mark, it's quite amazing to see how dark it's getting there. I mean, we could see you just a few seconds ago, and I know your camera's panned to the crowds there, and it's panning back to you now. I can just see the shape of your head, so I know you're there. But what an amazing moment for you to witness.
Unbelievable. I honestly, it's exceeded all my expectations. My glasses aren't on now because we've got totality. I'm looking up at it there. Wow. Wow.
Gosh.
How are you feeling?
This is amazing. It's so beautiful.
Exceeded expectations?
Oh, it's beyond. Absolutely incredible.
How are you doing, sir?
I'm like shaking. This is so cool. This is so cool. When people say, like, you have to see this, they weren't kidding. It's like everything they told me. It's words can't, my brain isn't working.
It's mad. It really is.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Here, you could hear the emotions there of our teams on the ground in Vermont. and speaking to some of the people there. And one gentleman was completely lost for words. And Kate and Sheila, I'll bring you both back in. I mean, this time we're able to see how dark it actually gets without any camera lights, just the reality of the situation where for those few moments they go into complete darkness.
What I thought was really nice was he spoke to the couple just after totality that he'd spoken to just before. And the woman previously was, oh, well, it's not really my thing. My husband brought me here. And then as soon as this has happened, wow, this is absolutely incredible. They're going to be on the road for the next one, I'm sure.
And that's what we've been hearing, right, Sheila? The fact that the chase is also part of this. Suddenly it just gets into your bones and your system. And you know, so many people who have witnessed it time and time again, you know, who it's not their first time, say that you end up chasing it for the rest of your life.
And I think that's the really nice thing about eclipses, lunar, solar. They are accessible to anyone. You know, as long as you remember not to look at the sun with the naked eye during, you know, when it's not during totality, anyone can see an eclipse, and that's really unifying, and that brings everyone together, and I think that's really special.
And what's been interesting for me is how different it's looked along the path, because there have been moments where we've seen, I understand, the pink prominences. And Kate, if you can tell us a little bit more about the prominences, why does that ring around the sun turn pink?
So the little pink bits that look almost like rubies around that ring there are, it's incandescent hydrogen gas that's being sort of thrown out by the sun. But just in the moments before you go into totality, there's a lovely thing called Bailey's beads, which I think one of the people mentioned earlier. It's a very short-lived thing, and what you're seeing there is the light coming through from the sun, and it's going past the moon, and it's being kind of split by the valleys and things on the moon. So it's as though you're looking through a circular saw and looking through the spikes. So you see these, it's like a little ring of beads. Like little pearls around the edge.
I'm just going to go back to Mark Stone, who joins us from Newport, Vermont. And Mark, oh, there you are. I can see you. And you're back. You're back. No camera lights required. You're not in the dark anymore.
No, I mean, I don't know. Could you not see us at all? It's amazing.
Well, I could see the shape of your head.
You couldn't see anything when we were in... Yeah, I know. Absolutely extraordinary. Honestly, Yalda, I've run out of words. I said to Eleanor, my colleague here earlier, I said, it's not going to be completely dark. She said, I think it might be. It really was absolutely amazing. Let's try and talk to a few people around here just as we come to the end of this moment. The sun is coming back out again. Excuse me, ma'am, how are you? You're live on Sky News, British television. What do you make of that? Wasn't that extraordinary?
That was amazing. That was when I had like chills. Yeah. It was really beautiful.
Emotional?
Yes, very much so.
Tell me what you were feeling.
I was feeling really elated and kind of overwhelmed just by the whole physical environment.
I think overwhelming's the right word. How about you, sir?
Yeah,
turn around for me slightly, because our camera's over there.
Sure. I thought it was amazing, yeah. I thought it was pretty wild to see at the bottom left there were these big pink things coming out, which is pretty incredible.
Bailey's beads, I think they're known as.
Well, actually, those they were prominences.
Oh, prominences, yeah, okay. Sort of you've got, yeah, you're probably going to tell me you're a real expert now.
No, but he is.
Well, can we talk to you, sir? Can we talk to you quickly? You're live on Sky News at the moment.
World.
Well, the world was looking up, wasn't it? What an extraordinary moment.
Oh, yes. Wonderful eclipse. Couldn't ask for nicer skies. Clear.
It was literally the perfect day.
I was planning on going to Texas, changed my mind a week ago, and I'm glad I did.
Where are you from?
D.C. area. Okay. This is my 8th eclipse.
Your 8th? I thought this was supposed to be once in a lifetime.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
I thought this was once in a lifetime. You've seen 8.
There's one somewhere in the world every year and a half. If I was a serious eclipse observer, I'd have dozens in my back pocket, but this is number 8 since 1972.
Your 8th total eclipse?
Yes, 8 total. 1972 in Quebec, that was my first one.
We found the right guy, Yalda, I think, just by chance. And how does this compare to the others?
This is actually, well, for me personally, it was better because I wasn't trying to photograph it, so I could just enjoy it for the moment.
I didn't get your name, sorry.
John.
Nice to meet you, John.
Good to meet you.
Good, and enjoy the rest of the moment. What an extraordinary day.
Yeah, well, the fun part comes in a couple hours when I hit the traffic. I-91 is probably going to be backed up all the way to Hartford.
John, nice to meet you. Thank you very much indeed. There you go, Yalda. What a moment.
Yeah, and Mark, you really did find the perfect eclipse chaser. Thank you so much, and I'm glad you were able to share that experience with us as well, and keep yourself in darkness. Let's go live now back to NBC's coverage, and Kate Snow is live from Maine. Let's have a listen in.
That's a prominence.
Yeah, most people aren't talking. I mean, we're trying to use golf voices here, me and Mark, but most people, there's a little bit of a buzz, but people are just looking up in awe all around me. And I think it is that feeling of being in it together that is so special, Mark. I think it's spiritual in a way, depending on your beliefs, but it does feel like something so much bigger than us.
Something is bigger than us, and we're seeing it.
We have to put our glasses back on. Let's for 1 second. There we go. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I see a little bit of sun peeking through now, just a tad. Tell me more about what you've been looking for today, Mark, because you have this fancy telescope set up. What have you been?
A couple things. I want to show people what it's like as the moon moves across the sun's surface so they can see what's going on and kind of actually watch this work. People don't really understand. They don't have a daily experience with like the sun and the moon and everything else. This makes it real.
A big cheer going up for the crowd here. There's a local radio station next to us, Lester, and they're telling everybody how was that, and everybody's cheering. Go ahead.
So we don't have a lot of experience with the heavens moving or stars and planets, and this is a dynamic system where you can just watch it happen and you feel it, and it does weird things, and now things are starting to return to normal, and it's just a human experience.
I don't know how to explain it. I almost feel like, Lester, like I felt it in my chest, and maybe you had that experience.
You were listening there to Kate Snow from NBC, reporting live from Maine, where they just experienced the total solar eclipse. Well, joining me now from Burnett, Texas, is professional astronomer Dr. Luke Tyus. Thanks so much, Luke, for joining us here on the program. You would have experienced it in the last hour or so. Just tell me what it was like.
Yeah, about 25 minutes ago. It was really incredible. I remember in the 90s as a child, we had a total eclipse in the UK, and it was, of course, cloudy, and I missed it. And just last October in Tucson in Arizona, where I live, we had a partial. And the difference between a partial and this total experience today has been absolutely night and day. Really an incredible difference. As you've heard from people earlier with the prominences and the diamond ring feature and the Bailey's beads and things, it really only comes if you're kind of perfectly in the right spot at the right time, as we are here in front of Lake Buchanan in Texas. And it's been really, really incredible. We've had an army of photographers and telescopes out here and people just with solar glasses, and everyone's found it to be really remarkable. It's been really an incredible experience. I spent about 15 hours driving over here to get here, and it's been cloudy all morning, and it's cloudy now, as you can see. So I was a bit worried, and I thought maybe it wasn't going to live up to the hype that I'd set myself, but it's been absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, Luke, that's what we were hearing, that there was a fair bit of cloud anxiety, especially for those who had made their way to Texas, people trying to get refunds from hotels and trying to move to other places. But we did speak earlier to a few people in Texas who said suddenly the skies just opened up and the clouds disappeared in the right moment, and they were able to witness it.
Yeah, absolutely perfect timing. It could have been better. We've had friends that have changed their plans at the last minute and gone to Canada, and I think we've hit the jackpot here. So it's been great.
And tell us, this isn't your first total eclipse, or is it?
It's the first one that I've been able to enjoy with clear skies. We had one in Arizona a few months ago, but it was just a partial one. And as I said, it's a huge difference between a partial and a total eclipse. So
Yeah,
it's been really
and that's what we've been hearing. In fact, what we've also been hearing is that once you experience it, you become almost an eclipse chaser for the rest of your life. We just had a guest on the program from Vermont who said this is his 8th over 3 decades or so.
Yeah, well, we're already looking forward to Greenland 2026 and trying to make plans for that. I think having enjoyed it as much as we have done in the last few hours.
Yeah, and I guess we're also, people are talking about how this is a really a life-changing experience, and it's bringing communities together. And as you were saying there, I mean, so many of the people gathered there brought their telescopes, and the photographers were out. I can imagine they're in Texas, and so many people were relieved to be able to witness it.
Yeah, there's actually been a huge festival just in the background over there with tens of thousands of people, and many of them have left just as the eclipse was happening or just before, in anticipation of storms. So we've been really lucky to be welcomed to this beautiful ranch here and taken in like family.
Well, thank you so much, Luke, for joining us and sharing your thoughts and your experience there from Burnett, Texas. Well, I'll bring in our panelists who've been listening in and feeling the emotions, and really, I'm still envious. I was at 7 p.m. and I remain envious because I feel like we've watched it move and seen it in all its glory, but not physically there.
Yeah, we're just living vicariously through everybody's experiences. And I was listening to a podcast the other day, and there was a man who had seen 30 total eclipses. He'd seen one on every single continent, including Antarctica. And he was talking about when he gave lectures describing the experience and talking about the one that was his favourite. And his wife had to point out, no, your favourite was the one where you met me. That's how they met.
Wow. I mean, that is serious commitment to eclipse chasing.
Yeah, well, I feel quite ashamed I haven't seen any yet, but that's going to change. I've definitely got the bug. I feel like the studio went cold during that last total eclipse. I'm feeling like I'm actually there, and watching the map of the shadow of the moon. It's travelling so fast across the whole of North America. It's like watching it in real time is mind-blowing, really.
That's the extraordinary thing. It's sort of a few minutes in each place. I think in Mexico, it was something like 4 minutes or something. It got shorter and shorter, didn't it? But it does feel like it's moving very, very quickly. Do we know how fast it's moving?
Yeah, I think the average is a few thousand kilometres per hour, but it can be tens of thousands at the fastest. So it's ridiculous speeds.
Yeah, I think the moon's shadow is moving at over 2,000 miles an hour or 3,400 kilometres, which is why each place was only getting just a few minutes to see it. I think the longest one was just as it was crossing the border with Mexico, and they were getting around 4.5 minutes. Although there was people on the plane who were flying along the path, not quite as fast as the shadow was moving, but they added an extra 25% of time. So they had about 6.5 minutes.
Well, we can see our tracker, where it was in the last hour and a half and where it is now in Canada. We went from densely populated areas to sort of remote places where there are fewer people. But what's made this eclipse so extraordinary is that tens of millions of people. Martha Kellner was saying earlier, you can just stick your head out of the window in Indianapolis and witness it, which is so amazing.
Well, if you live there, then very lucky. I mean, I've got several friends who have travelled over, and as soon as I get out of the studio, I'm going to see who managed to avoid the cloud and actually really experience this.
And we keep talking about the next one being in 21 years, but actually a total eclipse happens every 18 months, doesn't it? Yeah. It doesn't happen across the United States where millions of people live. It can be random.
Yeah, that's the thing. They are more, they happen more often than we think they do because of being able to see them. But a total eclipse can happen every 18 months. It just depends whether it's visible, whether that moon shadow is going across land where humans live, or if it's in the middle of the ocean or one of the poles or something like that. And that's why it's so spectacular from a human point of view.
And then there are those who are truly committed, like the person you spoke about who has seen 30 of them, you know, from Antarctica to God knows where.
I've always dreamed of going to Antarctica. So, I mean, going to Antarctica and seeing a total eclipse, I mean, that must be the trip of a lifetime. That
and the
really
weather
is...
dropping in Antarctica,
oh, goodness.
you know.
That really would be a once in a lifetime, I imagine.
So there are a few things that, you know, I've really understood better from the last sort of hour and a half or so, is that the weather does drop, things suddenly feel very different, very cold. And for those experiencing it for the first time, they think it's happened, but it hasn't quite happened. Because you don't think, I guess, that it's going to plunge into complete darkness the way that it did.
I mean, the last person you spoke to, when he said the difference between a partial eclipse and a total eclipse, and he just used the common phrase, it's like night and day.
Literally.
But actually, it literally is. You know, when you've got a partial eclipse, there's so much brightness from the sun that it doesn't feel that much darker. And then, yeah, when you get totality, and we couldn't see your correspondent because it was so dark. I mean, that really is the difference between night and day.
And there is a difference between 99% and totality as well, isn't there?
Even just in how you can view it, because obviously when it's total, you can take your goggles off or your glasses off and actually look at it. Even if it's still 99%, 99.9%, you can't do that. That's
because
dangerous.
It can damage your eyes.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you have to keep them on.
Even in a physical type of way, there is the difference between the partial and the total as well.
And are there people in this country trying to find the eclipse? I mean, is there a partial eclipse here?
Yeah, there was a very small partial eclipse in sort of Western Ireland and also places, sort of very far west places in the UK, around 8 p.m. British summertime.
Do we know what percentage?
In the west of Ireland, I think it was about 30%, and off the coast of England was more like 5% sort of thing. So not huge, and also at around sunset, so not a great viewing opportunity. And when I came into the studio, it was raining, so it's probably still cloudy, and you know, we have to wait. I think the next good partial is 2026, but it's a total from places like Spain, so I think I might go and book.
I feel like we're all going to suddenly have all been converted, because we've watched this this thing. Even if you're not in the path of totality, does the weather change? Do you feel things are slightly different? Does it impact the environment?
I mean, if some of the sun's light is being blocked, you will feel a temperature change, much as, you know, if you're... The difference between there being like a fully cloudy day and you feeling quite chilly, or a sunny day but then a cloud passes over, you do feel the difference when you're in the shade and then the sun, you know, the clouds pass and you can feel the warmth of the sun on yourself. So there is a bit of a difference, I guess.
And we're hearing things from our correspondents, 5 to 8 degree drops suddenly, you know, within a few minutes, which feels huge.
It does. And there's NASA's running some citizen science experiments, and one of the ones I'm really interested to see what comes from it is they've asked people to put these special recording devices out in various habitats that are all along the path of totality. And what they're hoping to do is record the sound and listen to see if there are differences. You know, do the crickets start chirping? Do birds start singing their evening songs? Or, you know, or does everything go quiet? What effect does it have on nature around the place? So I think that'll be a really nice one to watch.
Because I guess for animals, I mean, we saw the small child crying, you know, and the impact it had, how sort of frightening it would have been for the small child. Yeah. But for animals, it suddenly feels like the world's turned upside down, or it's ending, or something's happening that they can't quite fathom.
Well, it would be like, for us, how it felt, you know, a few thousand years ago when we didn't have that science backing to know that the sun is going to come back in 3 minutes or whatever, and just that kind of terror and, you know, the animals are programmed, well, not programmed, yeah, but a lot of the animals sort of do react differently in daytime and nighttime. So
birds,
for
them, example.
Yeah, exactly, and for them it is nighttime. Why would they think it was anything else?
I guess it also, if you have a moment of pause and think about this, hundreds of years ago, thousands of years ago, you can see why suddenly people feel very religious, for example, or start sacrificing things to the gods because they don't quite understand what's happening.
Yeah, I mean, just we know why this happens now, and even then we see the reaction that people have had. They feel unnerved, they get very emotional, they're, just completely awestruck. It's, it's like telling them that up is down because day is night and vice versa. I can't imagine what it must have been like. Quite terrifying. But then that's probably what sparked some of the stories that, various things like gods were eating the sun, because it does rather look like somebody's taking a bite out of the edge of the sun as the shadow passes across it.
Yeah, I in fact, I had some details of the Chinese describing this in their ancient traditions as dragons eating the sun. So there's all sorts of ancient traditions around this as well in many cultures.
Yeah.
Some people see it as a bad omen, some people see it as a rebirth. There's all sorts of different emotions wrapped around it.
But there are a lot of stories of something eating. So there's a bear that ate the moon as well, ate the sun as well. And I think that, again, sort of unifies the fact that people all over the world, even though nobody at that time knew what they were seeing, they all came up with the same stories as well. So we are people on one planet at the end of the day.
But how lucky, if we think about what one of our scientists said earlier who'd witnessed it, that, this isn't a given, that all of these things should align, the position of the moon, where the Earth is, how far the moon is from the sun to be able to cover in the way it has.
And where you are as well. There's this grand cosmic ballet, and you only get to experience totality if you, the moon and the sun are in exactly the right places at the right time.
I love that, the cosmic ballet of all of this, because that is what it's called, isn't it? It's kind of the coming together of all of these things creates almost a dance, and those in the path of it get to experience this extraordinary phenomenon, and the images coming out. I mean, the fact that we're seeing the pink prominences, and you were talking a little bit about that, but just amazing things that we're seeing and have witnessed for almost 2 hours here on the program. But I have another guest, and I will be coming back to our panel in a moment. But joining me now is the Public Events Coordinator of the Royal Astronomical Society of Canada, Montreal Centre, Professor Karim Jaffer. Professor, thank you very much for joining us, and you're waiting there to witness what so many already have in different parts of the United States.
We just saw totality about 15 minutes ago. It was incredible. And for me, it was the first time in my life. Evelyn here is one of the Space Club exec, and for her, it was the first time as well. And everybody, we had 6,000 people assembled in front of our college lawn. And it was just incredible the way in which everybody went quiet, and then just spontaneously the oohs, the ahs, the applause at the end when the diamond ring came back and the light came back up.
It is so extraordinary to see. We've been following it for the last 2 hours, as it's crossed North America, and it really has been extraordinary to see how emotional people get. Even those who have witnessed it before say that it is life-changing, and they become addicted to it, trying to chase the eclipse, no matter where it is. And we've been talking about the fact that it happens every 18 months, but amazing that all of you there were able to witness it and witness it together.
And here in the Montreal area, we haven't had an eclipse pass through since 1932. That was a total. And we won't have another one coming through our province till 2096. So this was really our time to see it in our backyard. And we had seniors, we had little kids, we had all ages, and almost everybody here had never seen it before, because we were at the outskirts of the totality band. So we only had about 75, 77 seconds.
Oh, wow. So, we saw in Mexico that it was well over 4 minutes. So you had a very small window, and you've organized some community events there, different events for people to come together and be able to witness this, even though you had a very tiny window.
Exactly. And so we wanted to make sure that anybody in the area who had an interest or just didn't even understand what the phenomena was, but it's a teaching day for a lot of us. So we wanted to make sure even the students who are in class or having tests can come out. So Evelyn, they actually set up activities both for kids as well as for their peers here. So did you want to say a bit about some of the activities that you set up?
Yeah, we did a lot of arts and crafts activities for the kids to make masks with their eclipse glasses on, so that they do keep them on and don't observe the sun without their glasses. We have like coloring stations, we had a mural, we had a lot of activities for children to entertain them throughout the entire afternoon.
One of the most unique things is our arts and sciences program actually built dark rooms that were 8 foot by 8 foot by 8 foot that we could send people into in groups of like a dozen. And then there's just a pinhole projection spelling out either John Abbott College or a little crescent moon or crescent sun, and projecting the pinholes onto the wall where otherwise it was absolute darkness.
That is amazing. And I guess you're also teaching them about the importance of keeping these eclipse glasses on, because even if there is, we've been talking here in the studio about the fact that even if it's 99.9%, it can still damage the eye. It has to be total eclipse for you to be able to take your glasses off.
Yeah, so even for the diamond ring effect, we made sure that as soon as the diamond ring started to come back, that everybody had their glasses on. And one of Evelyn's co-execs, Alessia, was on the mic telling people to count down for taking them off. And it was wonderful to see people helping others to understand to take it off to see the corona, because the corona, I don't know if you've heard from Mexico City onwards, but the corona this year is incredible. It is immense. It has wisps, it has structure, and getting a chance to see that was just awe-inspiring.
Yeah, I mean, we've been speaking a lot about the impact it's had on communities and the fact that it brings so many people together at a time where I guess, you want to have a sense of coming together and a sense of togetherness and a better understanding of our planet and this extraordinary, the sort of best show on Earth for just a few moments. But it also teaches us a lot about our planet, the solar system, our place in it, and of course, the sun.
So last Wednesday, Evelyn presented a set of information for both our John Abbott College community, the McGill College community, and our local McDonald campus, as well as the general public, to explain what an eclipse is and what the dynamics are and why it's special. Within that, we also included some of the First Nations and ancient legends to show the observations of the eclipses that have been handed down from generation to generation. And that was the 7th of our public events over the last year that were eclipse themed.
Well, Professor Karim Jaffer and Evelyn, we're really grateful that you've both joined us there and shared your experience and all of your community events that you've put together for so many of the children there in Montreal in Canada.
Thank you so much, Yalda.
I'm joined now by Sarah Marwick, a GP from Birmingham, who's been chasing solar eclipses for the past 25 years. She joins me now from upstate New York. Thank you so much for joining us here on the program, Sarah. And just tell us what you've experienced, what you saw. And of course, as we've said, I mean, you've been doing this for 25 years and clearly you're a eclipse chaser.
I think I have to accept I probably am now, yes. So as of about 30 minutes ago, I've seen 7 and it was fantastic. And we bailed from our original viewing site this morning, which is in a place called Geneva in upstate New York. And we drove northeast for 2.5 hours to try and get ahead of some clouds. And we had success. It wasn't entirely clear, as you can see behind us. It is overcast, but we were still able to see the beautiful corona. And we saw the shadow of the moon racing across the clouds. It was quite remarkable. It was like an otherworldly experience. And we're still in the partial phases now.
And Sarah, do you feel it? I mean, as you say, this is the 7th one that you've seen. You've been chasing them for 25 years. Does it feel almost, awe-inspiring, remarkable, life-changing? Those are the words that people have used to have witnessed it in the last couple of hours. Does that feel like that for you, given how many times you've seen it?
Absolutely, it never gets old. It just reminds you of your place in the universe, because normally the sun and the moon, they just do their thing and we take them for granted. And in this special few moments, it all aligns up to produce this incredible show. And everyone is different. I'm going to continue chasing them as long as I can. And it's just amazing. Yeah. I say that you can't describe it, and you can't describe it unless you're actually here, because it's not just the words, it's the feeling, it's the temperature, it's the people around, it's the eeriness. It's just everything is remarkable about it.
That's the thing. It's such a mix of emotions from what we've seen that people are fascinated by the beauty. It feels breathtaking. At the same time, I mean, there are elements of it that can feel quite terrifying. We had even a small baby on the program that witnessed it that really was, weeping and crying. I've got about 30 seconds, Sarah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. You can only imagine what it would have been like for people who didn't know it was coming. You really think the end of the world is happening. We know obviously the science behind it now, but it still doesn't make it any less remarkable.
Amazing. Sarah Marwick, as we said, you've been chasing the solar eclipse for the past 25 years. You're from Birmingham, a GP. We're really grateful that you've joined us here on the program.
No problem at all. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, that was Sarah Marwick joining us there from upstate New York. It's 9 o'clock. You're watching this Sky News special program. Tonight, millions of people across Mexico, the United States and Canada witness the rarest of spectacles in the sky, a total solar eclipse. Mazatlan in Mexico was the first city to be thrown into brief darkness for a whole 4 minutes as the eclipse's path of totality reached land at 7:07 p.m. and we witnessed it here in the studio with them. There were loud cheers from onlookers, including the president of Mexico, as the moon crossed paths with the sun, filaments of white seen on the edge of the eclipse.
Lester, the clouds are coming in and out. There it is. Oh
my goodness, that's so cool.
You can absolutely see those.
You saw some coverage there from our partner channel, NBC News. Across the border, the United States experienced totality for the first time since 2017. Those first to see the moon obscuring the sun, throwing the day into darkness. We're in Kerrville, Texas, where families gathered to experience the phenomenon. And the screams and the cheers really rang out in Dallas, Texas, and they really captured the emotion of the moment as the last sliver of the sun disappeared. One onlooker said he felt an eerie feeling, and that's how it really has felt for the last couple of hours as we've been watching it. Once complete darkness fell on the city, temperatures plummeted next along the path of totality. Our correspondent Martha Kellner in Indianapolis, have a listen.
They've never seen this before, so they don't quite know what it looks like, but it has all of a sudden got incredibly dark, and I'm just watching the very tiniest bit of the sun disappear. We are now at the point of a total solar eclipse, and you can hear what that means to everyone.
That was Martha Kellner there. Well, meanwhile, in Cleveland, Ohio, even fans at Major League Baseball games came to a standstill as the eclipse began to reach totality, as NBC's Jesse Kirsch witnessed firsthand. Have a listen.
This crowd is starting to get jazzed up. We've literally got tens of thousands of people rocking out here in Cleveland. We are down the block from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. They have delayed the first pitch for the home opener for the Cleveland Guardians. So there are people in the ballpark. They're not saying play ball until this thing's over.
That was Jesse Kirsch there from NBC. And finally, the US state of Vermont, up by the US border with Canada, experienced totality without a cloud in sight. Our correspondent Mark Stone was there.
We're about to experience that moment here in the most northern portion of the United States, here in Vermont on the on the border, as you say, with Canada, as the eclipse has swept north along that arc of totality. The emotion has swept too. It's been extraordinary to watch, and the emotion that we have been seeing over the course of the sweep of totality we are about to experience here. If I put my glasses on, I can see that it is pretty much, well, very close to totality now. I think we've got about 3 or 4 minutes to go until it is. Unbelievable. I honestly, it's exceeded all my expectations. My glasses aren't on now because we've got totality. I'm looking up at it there. Wow. Wow.
Gosh.
How are you feeling?
This is amazing. It's so beautiful.
Exceeded expectations?
Oh, it's beyond. Absolutely incredible.
How are you doing, sir?
I'm like shaking. This is so cool. This is so cool. When people say like, you have to see this, they weren't kidding. It's like everything they told me. It's words can't. My brain isn't working.
It's mad. It really is.
That was Mark Stone there in Vermont, and here with me in the studio, the space journalist Kate Arkless-Gray and Dr. Sheila Kanani, a planetary scientist, and you guys have been with me for the last couple of hours. It was quite something, actually, listening to Mark Stone there in Newport, Vermont, talking to that couple who just before it happened were like, yeah, well, you know, we'll see how this goes, and then totally lost for words.
I'm already planning for us to have our reunion in the path of totality when it hits Europe in 2026. I think we need to do this again, but with the actual eclipse just, you know, there in the background. I mean, these pictures are lovely, but I don't think it's quite the same as being there. Just watching the reactions from the reporters who are lost for words. And you know, if you're a TV reporter, that's not something that often happens.
Indeed, we've tried to capture it here in the studio, but what has happened in the last couple of hours is we've all certainly got the bug,
yeah.
haven't we? And we will experience something like that in about 18 months' time. Here, won't we? But perhaps in Spain or somewhere.
Yeah, 2026, August 2026 is a total eclipse in Europe, and I think it's about 90% partial in the UK. So if you can't travel or if you don't want to, you can still experience the partial. And the professor, I think he was in Montreal, and his colleague were talking about different ways of viewing it. So if you don't have the solar goggles or a telescope, you can make really simple pinhole cameras. You can get a cereal box and poke a hole in it. You can use like kitchen objects like a colander to project the total eclipse through the holes of the colander. So anyone can see it if you don't need the special goggles or telescopes or anything.
No, but we kept
in the right place at the right time.
Absolutely. And actually, what makes this total solar eclipse so special is the fact that tens of millions of people were in the right place at the right time.
Absolutely. And what was slightly different this time round than in the previous one they had in 2017 was the path of totality was actually slightly wider, because in 2017 the moon was a little bit further away, so it wasn't covering quite so much of the sun. So that path was only about 62 to 71 miles, whereas this time it was much wider. So you bring in all those people who live in that strip, and because it went right across the US and then into Canada and a bit of Mexico as well, that's a lot of people.
We've been speaking a lot on the programme about the fact that everything has to sort of almost align. You know, we are living in a very special period to be able to witness this, but to also know it's happening. You know, hundreds, thousands of years ago, people would not have known what was going on.
No, and I mean, it must have been such a shock. You know, you going about your normal business and suddenly someone turns the lights out. You know, day becomes night. The cows decide it's time to go home to bed. The crickets are chirping away, and then 4 minutes later, hang on a minute, we're back to daylight again. I mean, that must be so confusing.
Must be. And not only can we know why it's happening, but we can also predict them sort of hundreds of years into the future. We're talking about 2026, we're talking about 2045. Someone mentioned a lot longer than that. But the fact that we not only know why can plan for those lights to be switched off and have our cameras at the ready.
Not just plan for what's happening, but also helps us understand the sun better, for example, and our planet and our place.
Yeah, absolutely. The various different experiments going on that can only happen during total eclipses, the knowledge of the corona. It's a mysterious place, this atmosphere of the sun, that we can't really look at from the Earth.
Yeah, and just tell us a little bit more about that, Kate, because all that's, well, it's been amazing speaking to people, their emotions, but there's a lot of science going on in the background now.
Yeah, there's an experiment that NASA's doing where they're sending up rockets quite high up, not into orbit, but they've sent one up 45 minutes before totality, one during totality, and one after totality, and they're using those to measure the amount of charged particles and the density of charged particles in the atmosphere. And the hope is that if we can start to understand the effect of the moon's shadow on our ionosphere of Earth, that will help us when we're predicting the effects of space weather in future. These things that the Great Storm in, 1856 with the Carrington event, which really caused some big problems back then, and they didn't have so much technology. Nowadays, if there was a huge solar flare that was pointed at Earth, that could knock out GPS, it could knock out some of our communication satellites, it could have issues with our electric grids on the ground. And it's still something that we're getting better at predicting these things, but we're not quite there yet. So anything we can learn is really important.
And scientists have this opportunity every 18 months to be able to do this, basically?
It's not as simple as that because, like we said before, it depends where the path of totality is. So it's got to be, if you're trying to look at it from land, it's got to be on land. Although we were talking earlier about people looking at it from aeroplanes, and astronauts can see it from space as well, from the International Space Station. So you can't do the same science from the International Space Station, but the view from there must be quite incredible as well, because you're not watching the eclipse, you're watching the path of the shadow of the moon cross the Earth. Sort of that must look quite ominous as well.
Yeah, and I guess we're talking there to a GP from Birmingham who was in upstate New York, who was saying that she's been chasing a total eclipse for 25 years, and this is her 7th one. So that gives you a sense of actually the challenges, the difficulties of being able to find them in the right places.
And the nice thing was, she said it doesn't get old. She didn't kind of, oh yeah, it's just another one. She was still as excited as those people we saw earlier when it was the very first one they'd ever seen. So I think there is definitely something magical about it.
That's what was amazing, because I asked her if it was, given she's seen it so many times now, and some people go lifetime without seeing it or seeing it once, and she's been chasing it around. It didn't feel like any different. Her emotions were almost the same as someone who hasn't experienced it at all, or, has for the first time.
I mean, I'm kind of the same when I watch rocket launches. There is something about that moment, especially if you're doing something with a group of other people and you've all come together for this one thing. You're all hoping for the right weather, you're hoping for a good view. And then when the thing actually happens and you just share a moment of togetherness with the people around you, it's quite special.
Yeah,
very. People cheering like it was a show, and we've called it a great show, people clapping. And it felt for me watching that, it's a bit like New Year's Eve when people are counting down and cheering and whooping, but just much better.
Well, we'll keep you right here because we're going to NBC's Jay Gray, who joins me now from Junction in Texas. Jay, we spoke to you just before you experienced that total solar eclipse, and now an hour and a half or so after. Just tell me how you're feeling.
Well, it hasn't worn off, Yalda. I can tell you that. There was magic here today, to be real frank. The temperature dropping, daylight shifting into darkness, and totality washing over the Texas Hill Country. It was amazing to see. We heard birds chirping before totality. It was so silent as things went dark here. The kids had been playing and running around at this festival. They even stopped and knew something special was going on here. Lasted a little over 3 minutes here. We had a couple get married during totality at this Eclipse Festival in Junction, and just so many people trained on what was happening, and extra special because the forecast over the last couple of days had not been good. There were promises of heavy clouds blocking our view of everything going on here. Locals told us Don't worry about that. This is the place to be, and it's gonna be fine once we get there. As the sun came up today, the clouds started to build, and it didn't look very good, to be real honest, but they burned off just as the eclipse started, and we got to see the moon eating away at that orb of the sun until it finally covered it all, and just really a very different, a very special experience. We saw people applaud as totality began. There were goosebumps. I had Yalda goosebumps as it happened. Even people crying here, very emotional for some of those who experienced this. So it was a very different and very, again, I'm saying it a lot, but a very special day here.
Yeah, it felt it. I mean, just being here in the studio and following its path and speaking to people in different cities and parts of the United States, you know, following that path of totality and really we experienced their emotion and we weren't even there. We didn't, you know, experience it in the same way as being on the ground. But as you say, I mean, there were so many people worried there in Texas. Some people trying to leave their hotels and go to different parts of America to try and catch it, chasing that eclipse. But how lucky that the skies opened up and you were able to see it in the way that you did.
Yeah, just amazing, y'all.
Yeah, Jay, really grateful for your time, and I can see it's all cleared up behind you. The people have packed up and left, but we're grateful that you've joined us. That was NBC's Jay Gray there, joining us from Texas. Well, let's bring our panel back in. I mean, people really did pack up and go home. They were there for just the festival was there.
They must be stuck in traffic now. There's millions of people all trying to go home. And I think that what's really interesting, we talked about the cloud anxiety and the wonder of this eclipse. But at the end of the day, no matter how important we are, or we think we are, we're still at the mercy of Mother Nature. You know, people are still worried about these clouds. We can't do anything about the weather. That's just, you literally can't do anything about it. And it seems like everyone's been successul. So I'm pleased for them.
Yes. Because what was hilarious is people were looking at Airbnb bookings, and it was on the total, the path of totality. You know, it's been great for business as well in so many parts of America.
Yeah, you didn't need science, really, did you, to work out where the path of totality was if you just looked at that, the map of the bookings. But yeah, I mean, it's a big business. There's lots of people. I mean, I'm trying to think about the number of people I know from the UK who've gone over to see it. I know I've got friends from Canada that have driven, you know, right across the length of Canada to see it. So it is a big draw for people.
Absolutely. I mean, we know that well over 40 million, if you count, you know, Mexico and Canada. We've been speaking a lot to people in the United States, but over 40 million people. And then, not to mention the millions of others who have descended on these small towns and areas to try and get a glimpse and experience something that is truly once in a lifetime. Although we have heard from people who have said, look, I've been chasing for decades.
Yeah, we saw the different viewing places, and was it Indianapolis that had this massive stadium full of people, and then when we cut to somewhere that they only had a few thousand, and I just, you know, that's mad that it's all the same thing, that everyone's looking at the same thing, but in such different ways as well.
And experiencing it in different amounts of time. So Mexico, just over 4 minutes. And then we spoke there to someone in Canada who said, look, we had about 70 seconds, but that was still amazing.
70 seconds with clear skies, though. You'd take that over 4 minutes of cloud, I think, on a day like this.
And I guess some of the things, I mean, you realise it's the same experience everywhere. You know, the weather, we constantly heard them talking about the weather dropping by 5 to 8 degrees, things feeling more eerie, colder, and then suddenly plunged into darkness.
Yeah, that word eerie's come up a lot, hasn't it? It's sort of, and that doesn't just affect the humans, it affects the animals and the birds and things as well.
And we will be speaking, I believe, on the programme to someone who is a zookeeper about the impact it will have, it had on the animals. Because for them, as you were saying earlier, you know, that they don't know really what's going on, and their sense of what's going on, suddenly, you know, they're in daytime and then it suddenly goes into nighttime.
And if it gets colder as well by 5 to 10 degrees, that's considerable as well, even without the lights being switched off.
That can really throw you, you know, absolutely. And it gives you a sense of how we felt, human beings, you know, thousands of years ago when something like this would happen. You can see why people would suddenly sacrifice things to the gods.
Yeah, I mean, if you were fearing that the sun wasn't going to come back, then that would make a lot of sense. Thankfully, we now know, and you know, we're all still here. There were various conspiracy theories that, you know, this was going to be the end of days and all sorts of crazy things were going to happen. We're all still safe. We knew that this was going to happen. We knew when it was going to happen. We know when it's going to next happen. You know, there's nothing more to it than some good science.
Well, we're going to keep you both here because we've been talking about people doing all sorts of things during the total solar eclipse, including getting married. Well, joining me now from Russellville, Arkansas, the celebrity officiant of a mass eclipse wedding, Craig Wayne Boyd. Thank you so much, Craig, for joining us. I mean,
thank you so much for having us.
How many people did you marry off today?
Last count was a little over 250 or so. It was pretty wild.
Yeah, it sounds really wild. So just talk us through the process. You know, how long did it the eclipse go on for where you are, and how did you do it?
We right leading up to the eclipse, the total eclipse part. We did the ceremony, and everyone exchanged vows, and then we all took a moment in time for about 4.5 minutes or so that we had of total eclipse. It took that in, and then I sang the first dance for everyone. It was a blast.
How amazing. So the whole thing lasted, I guess, for a few minutes, and you did that whole process in those few minutes.
It was a little nerve-wracking. This was my first wedding to officiate, so I was pretty excited about it and nervous, but everything went off without a hitch.
Wow. And did you say 250 in that very small window that you had, and you couldn't get anything wrong, I guess?
Yeah, it was timing had to be perfect because you can't rewind the sun.
No. And tell me about the emotions of all the couples. And, you know, what, did they tell you why they wanted to use this window, this period, and to do it in this way?
There was couples from all over the United States and actually all over the world that were here. And I got to shake hands and take pictures. And of course, I had to sign all of those marriage licenses. And everyone had different reasons for being here, but it was all for one reason, and that was to unite underneath the unification of the moon and the sun and the earth.
And I guess for them, to start this new chapter in their lives in quite an extraordinary way, was it quite emotional as well? Because we have been speaking to people here who have been just completely either lost for words or crying, feeling very emotional.
There was a lot of tears of happiness that was going on. Looking out over the crowd, it was my own heart was thumping pretty hardcore. Just watching the emotions between the couples.
And have they all left now, or was it just those few moments?
They are thinning out pretty quickly. I still have a little bit of a line of signing some of their marriage certificates. I don't think they're going to run off yet.
Well, Craig, we'll let you go, but it sounds absolutely extraordinary. 250 couples there that you married today in those few moments during the total solar eclipse. Sounds nerve-wracking and very exciting. I'll bring in our panelists this evening. I mean, people do all sorts of things, but that was pretty cool.
I have a question for that officiant. What was all of those 250 couples' first dance song? Because if it wasn't Total Eclipse of the Heart, then I'm going to be really annoyed.
No, exactly. That's a good question. I should have asked what song he called the first dance to. But yeah, I mean, people want to have all of these different experiences and moments. From eclipse chasers to people getting married and others observing animals. It's that small window where people can do this sort of thing.
And with the weddings, he mentioned the unification of the couples, but also of the earth, the moon and the sun, which I thought was really nice.
Yeah,
I like that.
Very romantic.
Yeah, very nice.
Yeah.
Although that does mean the first couple of moments of their marriage was just darkness everywhere.
with those goggles on.
Congratulations, you're married, and suddenly it almost feels like the world's ending.
And already, I mean, getting married is quite an emotional thing already. And then on top of that, you're going through something that's life-changing as well.
Oh, it's certainly a day they won't forget.
And that's what we've continued to hear, you know, apart from, we've talked a lot about the science around this, but also the sense of community, the fact that people are coming together from all over the world, you know, in this path of totality, to have this experience that feels remarkable, but also eerie at the same time.
I think there is something nice about the way that space and, you know, cosmic things do bring us together. You know, we're all kind of inhabitants of planet Earth. It's our little spaceship that's keeping us safe. You know, we've got our magnetosphere, which is helping us to be protected from these solar flares and all the solar wind and things that are coming our way. But we are really just one planet. It's not about borders and different people. And it's moments like this where everybody is seeing the same thing. It doesn't matter what your political views are. It doesn't matter what your religion is. You're there looking up at something that's it's bigger than all of us. And it's quite incredible to see that. And I think that's part of, you know, the emotion that people have, is that they're just all having that shared experience, no matter what their background.
Yeah. And astronauts often say that, don't they? They say when they're in space and they look at the planet down, they suddenly realize we're one planet.
Absolutely.
It's quite amazing that you don't have to be in space to have that same feeling.
And it happened a lot during lockdown as well, when we were all sort of, you know, we couldn't do much else other than looking up. And there were, the skies put on a good show, actually. There were comets and there was conjunctions, and there was all sorts of different phenomena that happened during lockdown that were observed by a lot more people because they kind of felt like they didn't have much else to do. And that unification is just fantastic.
Well, I'm going to go to our next guest to continue the conversation. I'm joined now by the science and space communicator, Dr. Neve Shaw. Thank you very much, Dr. Shaw, for joining us here on the program. And we've had almost, 2 or 3 hours of just watching people be completely awestruck by what they've witnessed and experienced in this total solar eclipse.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I was in the field with my husband just outside Del Rio in Texas. We're in Del Rio now. We stopped for lunch, and there's a big party going on just over here. They're playing music, and there's loads of families and stuff joining us. And it's a real sense of togetherness. It feels like, I guess it sort of feels like, well, sort of St. Patrick's Day for Ireland, or the 4th of July, or it feels like we're celebrating a moment, a really important moment. And I was just listening earlier to your contributors. I couldn't agree more. Standing in that field when it suddenly went dark, you're very aware that you're on a planet and there's a shadow of an enormous object shining down on you. And those objects orbit with or without your existence. And it makes you feel, it makes you realize, like, traffic and, not sleeping in the morning and missing your alarm or rushing for shopping, all of that just disappears. And you kind of feel timeless. And you realize, like, thousands of years ago, nobody had this technology, but they would have had the exact same experience that I had. Now, thankfully, we understand it, and maybe, it must have been terrifying for them. But I agree with you. You have these moments where you can just consider your place in space and the bigger picture, and how lucky we are that we live on a planet where we have everything we could possibly want. So I feel very joyful after it, and I feel just like I've just been given this injection of life force. It really was really exciting. And the moment of totality, when you look up and you see this slight ring around the moon, the corona, and we were looking at it just with partial clouds, and it was sort of glistening. And it was just, I can't believe that this is actually something real and something that nature has created. And it was magnificent. And I just wanted to just jump up and down and scream and say, I am alive, I exist. It really does make me feel very connected to this bigger system that happens regardless of whether we choose to acknowledge it or not. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, Dr. Shaw, it just sounds amazing listening to you. It really is inspiring. And what we've heard from our guests over the last couple of hours is some have said they've felt very, very small, given what they've witnessed and given this extraordinary thing, that this phenomenal thing that they were able to witness that's once in a lifetime. And others have said this has completely been life-changing for them. And we've also spoken to people who have been eclipse chasing for decades and say the experience is the same, as though they've seen it for the first time. It never gets old, no matter how many times you witness something like this.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, I definitely want to go to another one. I mean, there's one in 2026 in Spain, and I'm already plotting it with my husband. My husband David, that had been his second one, and he said, you kind of know what's happening, but it's different. But you just feel, we were just joyful. We were just so joyful in the field, and I was live streaming because I really wanted more people to share it with me. Like, I was fortunate to be able to come, but a lot of people can't. So you see, the footage you see is like, you see the actual moon moving across the sun, but that doesn't feel human. You know what I mean? What feels human is standing in a field and seeing it get dark and seeing actual like light changing. And so that's why we live streamed it. And I it was nice to have other people with us, and you're just standing there and the birds stop chirping and it gets cold, and I can't help but go back. I just feel like I'm on a very old planet, and this has happened before. And for the planet to just like, yeah, whatever, we do this at least, once a year, maybe twice a year. But you're very lucky, I think, if you do get to have that moment and just stand still and go, oh my gosh, because you do feel completely out of control. But I don't think that's a bad thing. I think as humans, I think our biggest folly is to think that we're somehow in charge of this massive planet that's orbiting around the sun and spins in its own axis once a day. We tend to think that we're somehow able to control that. We can't control that. And it's a good thing to remember that. It's humbling, but also it kind of puts things in perspective and reminds you, it doesn't matter how much money you have in that field, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether you own a house or whether you're homeless, doesn't matter, because you are skin and bone and blood, and you need to food, you need to eat, you need to sleep, you need to go to the bathroom, just like every other animal. Nothing changes in that moment.
Nothing changes, yeah. Dr. Neve Shaw, really, really extraordinary talking to you and hearing your experience. Thank you so much for joining us.
Delight, thank you.
Well, let's speak now to Jesse Kirsch from NBC, who is joining us live now. Jesse, thanks so much for joining us. We were watching you earlier as you experienced that in Cleveland, Ohio, day turning into night, and watching the people around you experience it. It was quite something.
It really was remarkable. So just for a little background, in 2017, I was in southern Illinois, a couple hours, multiple hours drive south of Chicago. And we were supposed to have a good length of totality there. I was in a stadium with thousands upon thousands of people. And right before the eclipse hit totality, a giant cloud came overhead. And there was concern about there being clouds here in Cleveland and across the pathway here in the U.S. today. But we got really lucky, and we had a clean look at it the whole time. For close to 4 minutes by what NASA had said ahead of time. And it was just really remarkable to see. And if you were watching along when it happened, one of the things that struck me is we get this darkness overhead, and yet off in the horizon, you had what looked like either a sunrise or a sunset. And when you would see that behind you, typically you would expect to, see a glow off in the sky, and you weren't getting that. It just speaks to the incredible moment we were going through. Here in Cleveland, for those who aren't familiar, this is home to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. It's just a stone's throw that way from where I am right now. They're treating this like a rock concert tour. You can see they've come up with these T-shirts, and look at on the back, it's like, concert tour sites. So we've got Dallas, Little Rock, Cleveland, Buffalo, Caribou Moon. So it's just really cool how this city has embraced the eclipse. And I just want to make one other point. You mentioned you were watching along earlier. I got a message from one of my summer camp counselors from growing up, Ross. He lives outside of London, and he says he and his daughters, Alexis and Charlotte, giving them a shout out. We're all watching along. And I also met some people here from the UK who made the decision last week to come out here. And I just think that speaks to how this unites people, not just throughout the city, throughout this country, but across the world, all coming together to experience this in some way. And I just think that just speaks to the remarkable moment we all went through a short time ago.
Yeah, I mean, Jesse, as you said, we're watching you live go through that. It was quite something to watch you and all of the people there in Cleveland witness it. But as you say, we've also spoken to people who have traveled, from all over the world, really, to get into the path of totality. And there was that sort of cloud anxiety earlier, wasn't there? Especially in places like Texas. I didn't realize it was also the case in Ohio, where people were so worried because they'd made this journey. Those who lived there, were lucky enough, but others who traveled there suddenly felt, oh my God, am I not going to be able to see this? But they were so lucky to be able to witness it.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, in my lifetime, I'm hard-pressed to remember a time where all of the weather forecasters were talking about cloud cover percentages with this much focus and repetitiveness as we have over the last few days. And we're here in the Great Lakes, in the Midwest, a region that is notorious for having winter drag on into spring. We were talking about snow out here in this part of the country just in the last couple of weeks. And so for it to wind up being what feels like a late spring, early summer day is really remarkable. And at the moment of totality, it felt like one of those cool summer evenings when you might be at a lawn concert or seeing some kind of performance outside and it just cooled off. And just had that sense of sereneness. Also, you can hear the traffic because we're right off of a major thoroughfare over here. There was no traffic noise, best I can remember, at totality. And I think that just speaks to how many people were taking a pause from what they were doing here and all over the country just to look up and sharing a really remarkable experience. And we're not going to see something like this in the United States, across the United States, again until 2044, according to NASA. So if you missed it today, you're going to have to wait quite a while.
Yeah, Jesse, you're going to have to wait 21 years. We certainly here in the studio are now desperate to get out and see it, but we will have to wait a little while. Although it will come to this side of it.
Come join us next time.
Yeah, although I hear it's going to come our way in a couple of years, so you'll have to come this way. But thanks so much for joining us. Now, joining me here on set are our guests, Kate and Sheila, and you've been with me for the last couple of hours. We're looking at live images of the sun in Burlington, Vermont. I mean, whenever you look at the sun setting, and sometimes it can have quite an extraordinary color and the sky changes. That in itself is a magical moment. This has been just amazing to sort of witness, even if it for us has been from the studio. It has been amazing.
Oh, it really has. And talking about the sunsets, I lived in Qatar for a year, and there was so much dust in the air there and no clouds. So you would just watch with your own eyes. You didn't need glasses because there was so much dust in the atmosphere. You could just watch this big ball just, coming down to the horizon. And I thought that was absolutely incredible. But then you realise day after day, you'd see exactly the same sunset. Mm-hmm. And that's the one time when I realised that clouds, they do bring something to a sunset. Maybe not so good for astronomers, though.
And actually, clouds could have ruined the experience for so many today. And it doesn't feel that way at all, does it?
No.
Before we started, it felt there was a whole thing around cloud anxiety. And you were saying, Sheila, that at the end of the day, no matter what we do, we're still at the mercy of Mother Nature.
Yeah, and I think everyone sounds like they got lucky. There were a few that mentioned the fact that it suddenly got clear, sort of 5 minutes before totality and things like that. And some of the images we saw, you could just about see the eclipse happening behind a thin veil of cloud, but it just would change the experience completely. And I know Dr. Neve Shaw kept saying how joyous she felt after witnessing that spectacle. I'm just jealous.
Me too.
Really
There was amazing moments. There was the moment where when the eclipse happened, there was this pink ring, and you said it was a pink prominence. Just tell us a little bit about that.
So there are different steps. As the moon's shadow is going up, just before you get to totality, there are these Bailey's beads, which is where you just see a few little points of light, almost like a string of pearls. And that's because the light is kind of going over across the surface of the moon, which has got craters, and it's, you know, that's just the light is sort of going through, and you're seeing the uneven nature of the lunar surface, only very momentarily. Then you get down to they call it the diamond ring, where we saw just the edge of the corona around an almost completely eclipsed sun, but then that bright, like a diamond part, in fact, it's the picture over on the backboard there is sort of the diamond ring, and then you get the totality. And it's when you're in totality and you don't have the brightness of the sun kind of blinding you to all that's going on in the corona, which is the outer atmosphere of the sun, that you can start to pick out details like those little pink bits, which are prominences. And I'm going to be honest, I don't know whether those were just prominences or whether any of those were coronal mass ejections. I'm not sure if that's something we can tell at this point, but I think we could definitely see that it was a very active sun.
Mm. Yeah. There's definitely a loop at one point. I could see a coronal loop at one point, and then it's all to do with the magnetic field of the sun and how that interacts with the particles. And those loops will eventually break off from the sun, and they get to us eventually, and we're, like we said earlier, we're protected, luckily, but they could be catastrophic.
Yeah, I mean, quite amazing listening to the science of all of this and the process. But let's go to Indianapolis and speak with our Martha Kellner, who's been watching among a huge number of eclipse hunters. Martha, we were with you when you had that experience. It was quite something. Actually, what was quite extraordinary, and we were having a bit of a laugh here in the studio, is when you thought it had happened and it was still light, and then suddenly you plunged into darkness.
Yeah, I think it's actually really hard to judge when it is happening, because I was looking up at the sun and there was a slight slither remaining, but you think, is that just the corona, the halo around the sun, or is this the period of totality? But I may have gone ever so slightly early. What I was really struck by, though, is just how emotional people were. And as people were leaving there just after that period of totality, and I have to say it was a rather quick exodus from the Speedway, I was struck by how many people were still wiping away tears. And a lot of them were saying to me that this was a reminder of sort of the Earth's place in the cosmos, and the idea of being quite small in the grand scale of things, both as Earth and as individual human beings. So I think a really sort of remarkable, unparalleled experience for a lot of the people that were here today. There were around 50,000 people here. They experienced that moment of totality when the sun was completely obscured by the moon for around 3 minutes and 50 seconds. And almost as quickly as the sun had disappeared, it was back in the sky again. But those memories will last a lot longer. For many people, this will be the only total solar eclipse that they'll see. I'm just going to walk over here to bring in Megan and Nathan, is it?
Yes.
And Megan, I understand this was your first eclipse, wasn't
Yes.
it? How did it feel? What was that moment like?
It was pretty cool. Like, I think, I wasn't quite sure where to look at first, because it, got dark all of a sudden. I had heard online that there were all these different effects, so I was kind of trying to look for everything, and then I just sort of heard everyone sort of, getting excited all at once. I looked at the sky, and there was the diamond ring effect. And that was probably, I think, the coolest part was the diamond ring.
We were saying before, I struggled to know when the actual moment had happened.
Yeah.
Because it's sort of, even for the couple of minutes before the period of totality, it really does go quite dark, doesn't it?
It did. It got dark a lot faster than I thought it would.
And quite cold as well.
Yes.
And I'll just bring in Nathan here, because you're lucky enough to have seen a solar eclipse. The last time it was in the United States in 2017.
Yes.
Where did you see that one?
So I believe that was in Tennessee, if I'm not mistaken, because we actually ended up, so we drove up to see it, but then we had cloud cover come up, and then me and my friend, we jumped in the car, and then we just drove till we got clear. So I'm not actually sure where we saw it.
You're a bit of an eclipse hunter then.
Oh, it was very much last minute, because we had camped out the night before in National Forest land by this beautiful lake. And then that morning we just saw the clouds slowly creep in, and so we just ended up driving till we could see it again.
You must have been very relieved then, Nathan, to see the skies here today, because it was mainly clear, wasn't it?
Oh no, today was very much, knew it could be much more relaxed.
Yeah, we were a little worried yesterday because it was raining in the evening, so we were like, oh, we hope that this clears up. So we were very glad to see this morning and it started to get clear.
I think there's been a lot of weather anxiety for a lot of people across the US today.
Well, especially because Megan came up from Florida and I came up from Georgia.
Okay, wow, you've had a long journey. Yes. A long journey, you know, hours-long drives across this country for many people here at the Indianapolis Speedway. People from 21 countries, organisers say, and from every one of America's 50 states have travelled to be here today.
Yeah, Martha, and you had some lovely details that the last time the people of Indianapolis witnessed this was in the 13th century, and the next time they'll be able to go through this experience is in 129 years. So really quite amazing for the community there, and you were at the biggest watching party for all those people lucky enough to witness the total solar eclipse. Thank you so much for guiding us through all of the coverage here this evening. Now, our correspondent Mark Stone is up by the US border with Canada in Newport, Vermont. And Mark, you put such a great show on for us because we were able to, in real time, see the darkness that you were experiencing without the camera lights or anything, and just the emotion of it all.
Yeah, a darkness that I didn't really believe would come. Not that dark. I mean, it was quite staggering. And I've just been looking. I'll look again now. Because the last bit of that eclipse has now disappeared from here in northern Vermont, this northern part of the continental United States, where one of so many communities across this band, the band of totality, that stretches right the way down to Mexico, right the way up to Newfoundland. They have experienced a show, the greatest show on earth, quite literally. I mean, I've run out of superlatives, so I've got a couple of people here who can help me with some of theirs. What did you make of that? Wow.
It was incredible. It's our first total solar eclipse and well worth the visit.
Where have you guys come from?
Boston area. We were originally going to go to Austin, Texas.
Like many of us.
And we were watching the weather, and then we decided to go to Burlington, and then we woke up this morning and looked at the weather, and then we decided to come here.
We had Yalda, what we call cloud anxiety. We were going to go to Burlington as well, which is on the west side of the state, and then we thought, no, we'll come here, and what a show we had.
It was incredible. I don't think a small town like Newport has seen anything like it before.
Population 4,000, I think, but apparently there were 15,000 people here today. What did you make of it? That moment, it was, I mean, I haven't experienced it before either. It was emotional.
It was, I mean, the weather dropped, 10, 15 degrees, and yeah, we saw something that we have only seen, in books before, in front of our eyes.
It makes you really realize you're on a planet and it's in space, and there's other things in space, and they're moving around, and it's claustrophobic in a way. You're here on the Earth when there's a whole universe out there.
It makes you feel small.
Yeah, it's wild. Yeah, and the profound coincidence it is that our moon is the same size, apparent size in the sky as our sun, that it lines up like that. No point in Earth's history besides right now that would have been possible because the moon moves further away, and it's just I feel very lucky that we get to see it.
It's a unifier as well, isn't it? I mean, for one moment or for 3 minutes as it was here, we're all together. We're all looking up. We're all experiencing the same moment. We're all physically here together and spiritually together.
Absolutely. People descended from everywhere, and they're so nice. Yeah, it was wonderful.
It really was. Well, I'm glad to have enjoyed it with you. It was completely fantastic. As I say, Yalda, I didn't know what to expect, but without question, it's exceeded all expectations.
Yeah, and I'm so envious, Mark. I wish I was there, but we were living vicariously through you and your experience. Thank you so much for keeping that camera off so we could go through it with you. Now, let's speak to Dr. John Griffion, Assistant Director of Animal Programs and Conservation at Fort Worth Zoo. Thank you so much for joining us here on the program. We've been hearing all sorts of things about the way in which animals react in this moment, what the birds do, what the dogs do, what cows do. But just talk us through it, because, there are so many myths, and we're curious to know what the truths are.
Yeah, absolutely. So we had a team of observers here at the zoo today, over 40 people observing animals all over the zoo, leading up to, during, and after the totality. And it was pretty remarkable. We had sort of three big groups of activity that we observed, and all of them were related to animals thinking that it is nighttime. So we had a few nocturnal animals, a couple of owl species, and a small mammal called a ringtail. And all of them typically are a little bit quieter during the day. They're active at night. And during totality, all of them seemingly woke up, and the owls were active and flying around. And other animals, a lot of our animals move into holding spaces at night. And so, for instance, our gorilla troop, as soon as totality hit, they all got up and walked to the ship door like it was time to go in for nighttime. And we saw that with the gorillas, we saw that with our bonobo troop, our giraffe did the same thing. Even our Aldabra giant tortoises all moved to where their barn is for nighttime. And then the other group was the birds. And two of our flocks of flamingos got much closer together. They started vocalizing a lot more, and one of them even started marching, which is a group bonding behavior.
I mean, that just is extraordinary, you know, that they did that. Were they sort of freaking out? Because I guess it wasn't sort of the timing they may have expected in the day. And then for it to suddenly, you know, plunge into darkness, but then back to daylight. Does that completely, I mean, obviously it feels like it just throws them.
Yeah, that's a great question. We didn't see anything that we would classify as like freaking out. We did see some confusion about like, I think I just ate lunch. I'm not sure why it's dark now. But actually they were really resilient. So it started to get dark and it was sort of that, you know, low light, and then it got really dark. But as soon as it started getting light again, they were like, oh, I guess it's daytime again. We did have a few animals, our coyotes and our jaguar, that started acting like it was morning again. And they were much more playful and exhibiting those typical behaviors.
Yeah, I mean, that's amazing because, you know, you read things about, just in the lead up to this total solar eclipse, I was sort of reading about behavior of both, you know, humans and animals. And I was reading about these things, but it's amazing to hear you say that kind of behavioral change was happening, but at the same time, they're also being quite resilient. And how did they react then suddenly when it was daytime again, just a few minutes later? Did they come back out?
Yeah, absolutely. As soon as it started getting light again, we watched them turn around and head back out into their exhibits like it's time to start a day again. And even some of the wild songbirds in the zoo, guests noticed that it got really quiet during the totality. And then as soon as it got light again, the birds started singing.
Yeah, I don't know whether to feel sorry for them or be in awe, or I'm not quite sure how to respond to it.
Yeah, it was pretty remarkable to witness.
Well, thank you so much for joining us and sharing that. That really is amazing. Well, joining me here in the studio are our panelists who've been with us for the last 3 hours, and that was quite special to hear as well. You know, about what the animals do.
Yeah, I think that's changed my perspective on what humans might have been like a few, thousands of years ago. I expected that they would be petrified and terrified and think the world was ending, but maybe they were like the gorillas and just thought, oh, it's nighttime, oh, it's daytime, and just took it really calmly. That's really quite special.
It is, especially when it then went back to daytime.
Yeah,
and they just sort of pretended like the day started again.
Just like thinking about all the, the owls and the nocturnal animals, kind of, oh, okay, right, it's time for us to get active. And then it's almost like somebody pressed the snooze button. No, it's all right, you can have a bit more. You can sleep a bit more. You don't need to be active yet.
But what is what we do know from some of these ancient cultures and traditions is they did build a story around this, and they did build a kind of rituals and customs and what it might be as they tried to figure out, rather than just kind of go through their processes. They were also trying to understand what message this was that the universe was sending them.
Yeah, and it wasn't just sort of the stories and the processes, but it was the physical structures as well. You see these temples in Mexico and things that were possibly built because of eclipses and things like that. And I believe some of those ancient people could predict up to a certain point when eclipses were going to occur again, just not to the sort of precision that we can now.
That is what's extraordinary about all of this, the fact that we can predict and actually to the minute. We said at 7:07 this evening here that it would go through Mexico. That's where the first total eclipse would take place. And it was literally to the minute. That is so amazing, isn't it, as it moved across quite quickly.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same way that, you know, we're able to predict when the sunrise and sunset will be each day. It's all part of the same system, and we know where things will be and where we are in conjunction with them. And it's just magical that when you get the sun, the moon, the earth, and you in the right place on Earth, that you get to witness a total eclipse like that.
And we talk about it as though it's a given that these things should all align, but it really isn't.
It's, well, yeah, in sort of a few thousand years' time or in the past, it wouldn't have aligned exactly as it is now. And the ratio between the sizes of the moon and the sun and the distances between them are so perfect that we get these total eclipses. Other places in space, other planets, other moons wouldn't be seeing what we're seeing on Earth at the moment.
Sheila, Kate, it's been wonderful to share the last 3 hours with both of you. Thank you so much for being with us here in the studio. Well, what a 3 hours it's been. Over 30 million people across Mexico, the United States and Canada experiencing a total solar eclipse, some for the very first time, young or old. It's been a memorable and emotional experience for many. Thanks very much for watching, and we will be back again tomorrow. Goodbye.
Totality here in Mazatlan, Mexico, the first community in North America to experience the moon completely eclipsing the sun.
Lester, the clouds are coming in and out. There it is. Oh. Oh my goodness. Parts of the country that too. I was in Carbondale, Illinois. We had clouds.
There it is!
Next time we see it, we'll be grown up.
They've never seen this before, so they don't quite know what it looks like, but it has all of a sudden got incredibly dark.
So there are people in the ballpark. They're not saying play ball until this thing's over.
If I put my glasses on, I can see that it is pretty much, well, very close to totality now. Unbelievable. I honestly, it's exceeded all my expectations. My glasses aren't on now because we've got totality.